at 7 p.m. I cadence slide call this meeting to order. At this time, we have a roll call, please.
Counselor Funderburk,
Here.
Counselor Dufflo,
Here.
Counselor Wheeler,
No longer part of the council.
Counselor Katie McMillan,
Here.
Counselor Dennis McMillan,
Here.
Counselor McLean,
Here.
and Mayor Syke.
Advice for the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Time we are going to need to make an edit to the agenda. Dave, does it need to be under new business items? So it would be in section 9, so it'd be 9.4.
Yeah, so it will say it'll become the first item under new business.
Under new business, we'll move 9.1 and put everything else down. But this time we do have a vacancy on the council effective yesterday. We should add that to the agenda. The 9.1, we'll bump everything else down accordingly. Any other questions from council on that? Okay. Looking for motion for the agenda.
Mayor, I make a motion that we approve the agenda as presented with the caveat of adding 9.1, moving everything down accordingly for the resignation of Councilmember Wheeler.
Thank you. Can I get a second to the motion, please? I'll second that. So, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you, guys. Have it. Oh, sorry. I have to do a roll call though.
Counselor Funderburk,
Aye.
Counselor Dufflo, Counselor Katie McMillan, Counselor Dennis McMillan, Counselor McLean.
Yeah, got it. Thank you. Moving on now to our city manager's report. David?
Mayor, mostly just have some introductions for us tonight. I have Ms. Gray here from Mid-Willamette Valley Council of Governments. I'll let her introduce herself for just a moment.
Hi, I'm with Mid-Willamette Valley Council of Governments. I'm the Community and Economic Development Director over there in Salem. We provide municipal services to Marion, Polk, and Hill County, and several of the cities within. Dave contacted us 6 weeks or so ago when he heard about the resignation of your previous community development director and asked if there was the opportunity for the COG to be able to step in and serve as interim. And we do have an affiliate membership, so we have the opportunity for Utila to utilize COG services. So I'm just over here for probably coming in person. I wanted tonight to meet you all. I'm getting acquainted with the city and just here to help keep things moving along with the previous director was working.
Thank you. Go ahead and keep the mic over there. Got this one here. And then I also want to introduce, we have Maureen McGee is here on Zoom. She is our city attorney. Just give her just a moment to say hello.
Hi, everyone. I actually can't see you all on video, so I'm just listening in, but my name is Maureen McGee and I'm attorney at Tonkin Torp and have recently started working more closely with the city to provide you with city attorney services. So very happy to be joining you tonight, and I look forward to meeting everyone in person very soon.
Thank you very much. But we have our new fire chief Baker is here as well. Just say hello real quick. You definitely can introduce yourself. I got a microphone for you, Chris.
My name is Chris Baker. I'm the new fire chief, and I started on May 1st. And so far, I've just kind of done an assessment group of firefighters we have. We most recently had on Mother's Day, we had a field save. So we did CPR out in the field and we saved that person. And next thing you know, a couple days later, they walked free out of the hospital. So we're going to be doing some recognition with the police department because they were involved with that, recognition with our firefighters as well. And But we have a lot of work to do. I will say that, even though we do have a good group of people, we have facilities and equipment needs. But we have a good base. Just like any form of government, we have a lot of work to do. But I'm excited to be here. I come from Grant County, Washington, via California, where most of my career was. Served in law enforcement and fire, both the wildland and the structure side. So I'm pretty well rounded, and super excited to get to know everyone and have a great working relationship, because all in all, we're one team. We're not City Umatilla, we're not Umatilla Rural Fire District. We're one team when emergency strikes, and we have to be in sync. And I look forward to helping make that happen. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Welcome to the city.
Thank you.
That's all I have for you, Mayor.
Hey, this time we're looking for public comments from you.
Yeah, I think that's all good. We'll want to ask. Yeah, go ahead. You have some, Mayor, that you might want to ask if they want to be part of the public hearing, or if they want to be part of regular comment. The last two, I think.
This time we have Kyle Smith. And then as Kyle first advised, the public comment segment allows community members to share their opinions with their invite if you connect the meeting to the city council. Comments should address city related issues and must not pertain to items scheduled for public hearing on the same evening's agenda. You must speak complete the sign up sheet, including the topic you wish to address. Please begin by stating your name, address when called to the podium. Speakers are allotted 5 minutes unless otherwise agreed. Please note, comments criticizing city programs, operations are permitted during the segment. However, criticisms of individual city employees is not allowed during the public comment period. Concerns regarding city employees should be submitted in writing to the city's human resource manager for proper review. Thank you for your cooperation.
Good evening, Kyle Sack, 120 Ascendant. Well, Dave, stole my letter. I'm actually coming up fire board to introduce you to Chris, our new fire chief, and wanted to welcome him to our community and hope you ask him any questions and get involved. Great guy, and we're really excited to have him.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And this time we have Mia Padgett.
I did, I live at 404 Wall Street, and if the person, learns someone can't hear me, I'd like to speak up, because I think the last time the person online on the Zoom couldn't hear me.
Yeah, is the green light on the microphone? Just if you hold the button.
I can.
Oh, there we go.
I'm Mia Padgett, I live at 404 Wall Street. My public comment tonight, right now at least, is concerning the format of the commission meeting. It has some relevance to the hearing maker, but it is not about the hearing itself. I'm concerned about the 2 back-to-back hearings and immediate vote on the changes to the public records ordinance, all scheduled for tonight's meeting under the auspices of an emergency. I was here during last week's discussion, and I appreciate the current changes only apply to the current hearing tonight only applies to immediate issues of possible capital development or use like review welfare. And I understand the desire to rectify this discussion. I was actually really surprised here that this weekend at the golf, there was a truck serving whiskey out in the discussion last week where it became very, that's the city, so. This one?
Yeah.
Okay, so, as I was saying, I was surprised to hear that there was a truck serving whiskey at the golf tournament this weekend after the discussion that we had last week here, that you had last week. And But I'm really alarmed by the precipitation and apparent lack of self-reflection in this entire process. It makes it look like a sham. At the very least, this irregular process needs to be accompanied by an admission that it is irregular and precipitate, and by a decision to appropriately investigate, understand, and correct what led to having to proceed so irregularly. I want to remind us all that the due process was not given and the city charter was not respected when the city summarily declared the golf course as a city park in 2021 and 2022. Neighbors were not notified of the zoning changes. Requests from me and others for deeper assessment of impacts for Rock were ignored, resulting in hundreds of thousands of dollars in additional costs in North Midland to the best part. It is very expensive, a very expensive problem, which is yet to be fully resolved. This is unfortunate to say the least, given the huge efforts the city and volunteers have put into the Rock Lawn Festival. One lesson learned is that precipitated decision-making ends up being expensive. It is not the best in the long run for the common good. Beyond specific changes to park ordinances being considered tonight in the hearing, any further changes need to be the result of deeper consideration and proper notification and the normal hearings process. Before further changes are made, several points should be addressed. For example, we need a noise ordinance to protect neighbors of parks in the city. We need a clear definition of special events. Bruce McLean mentioned, including an identification of how many days per year neighbors of parks can be subjected to such disturbances. The ordinance needs to identify what recourses will be available to neighbors of parks so that the proposed changes do not result in the devaluing of our properties and the degradation of the quality of life for those of us who live near parks. For tonight, at the very least, I would urge you to rebuild public trust by formally admitting that your immediate process to update the park ordinance is precipitated and irregular, and formally calling for an unbiased investigation into what led to this point, with the goal of understanding and correcting the city's processes before future changes are considered. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Next, we have Josiah Barron.
Josiah Barron, Umatilla Chamber of Commerce, 100 Klein Avenue. Just a few announcements tonight. We're excited to have our upcoming grand opening ribbon cutting for Pretty Birds Nail Salon this coming Friday, May 23rd at 5:30 p.m. So for those of you that are working the regular 9 to 5 during the day, you can come by and celebrate with Teresa and celebrate this new business coming into Umatilla. She does everything from basic nail painting to the full spa treatment with pedicures and manicures. That's this Friday, May 23rd at 5:30 p.m. right over here at 1300 6th Street, Suite H. Then also we have our, actually before I say that one, I have one other one here. There's also your local realtor, Alex Arroyo. He is hosting the first Eastern Oregon Investors Meetup on May 22nd at 7 p.m. They're at his realty office at 405 North First Street, Unit 101 in Hermiston. They will be discussing various topics, but will include understanding the eviction process. So if you're interested in learning about this, or you know other people that are in the realty space, then that will be coming just in a couple days as well. May 22nd from 7 to 8 p.m. at Alex Arroyo's, that's Bright Real Estate in Hermiston at 405 North First Street. Over there by Neighbor Dudes for reference there. And then lastly, we also have our second quarter luncheon coming up on June 10th. Just got the registration opened up today, so you can get tickets for that event. Lunch will be all you can eat tacos by Acapulco Mexican food, so you know those tacos are going to be good. And we also have the Blue Mountain SBDC that will be speaking and sharing about all their services they offer for small businesses in the area. So just as a reminder, chamber members, you get the discounted price of $10 for lunch, and then guests are welcome for $15. That's Tuesday, June 10th at noon down at the Umatilla Chamber office there by the marina at 100 Pine Avenue. Those 3 events for you today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm there sharing one. And as a reminder, this is pertinent to the public hearing. Please hold it for the public hearing.
Very close. Red, not green. I think the batteries maybe. I'm not sure if this has good battery. If this is not the proper night for this, came to my attention not too terribly long ago that our golf course is now a city park. It doesn't come anywhere close to meeting classification of a city park. For multiple reasons right now. Not sure how or why or when it was changed to a city park and wasn't so proper route to get the zoning changed. Seems to me like the easiest fix is to simply put it back to being a golf course. It's not a city park, people don't go there for free. There are things, events taking place there that are not taking place at a normal city park. I think it'd be best just to recognize it was a mistake to change the zoning, and a mistake to call it a city park, and just simply put it back to the golf course.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And so there. And Frank.
I may be signed on the wrong thing, like spelling the way to cover it.
Thanks, Linda. That concludes our first public comment for the evening. Next, we have the consent agenda at 7.1. Are there any questions about the minutes from the 6th council at this time? I don't know, up the bar. Bruce, you got your name in there correctly this time? Yeah, all right. Looking over here.
Yeah.
Okay. At this time, we're looking for a motion to pass the minutes from May 6th.
I would make a motion to approve minutes from basic.
Thank you. Can we get a second? Motion, please.
I'll second.
Can we do a roll call?
Counselor Funderburk,
Aye.
Counselor Duffloff, Counselor Katie McMillan, Counselor Dennis McMillan, Counselor McLean,
Okay, moving forward to our public hearing on this evening. So we have the first reading ordinance on the for a new
Excuse
ordinance.
me, sir. Remember we amended this. This is where we're gonna do
Not yet.
9.1.
Not till we get to section 9.
All right, at this time, council, we're looking for a motion to recess our regular meeting and enter into a public hearing at this time.
I would make a motion to exit regular meeting and enter public hearing.
Thank you for your motion, Mr. McLean. Can we get a second? Motion, please.
I'll second that.
Thank you. We can get a roll call.
Counselor Funderburk,
Aye.
Counselor Duffloff, Counselor Katie McMillan, Counselor Dennis McMillan, Counselor McLean,
Thank you. You guys have it. Moving on to our first part of the script here that I have. A public hearing is now open to consider the first reading on ordinance number 875. An ordinance to amend Title 7, Chapter 6 of the Umatilla Municipal Code to update the Public Parks Code to expand those authorized to sell and serve alcoholic beverages during community events at the Umatilla Marina Park to include an exemption for alcohol consumption at the Big River Golf Course, to provide the use of golf courts at Big River Golf Course, and to provide an exception for tobacco use at Big River Golf Course and at the Umatilla RV Park. This evening, the procedure that I'd like to follow is in this manner. 1, a report from staff. 2, a public testimony. Members of the audience who wish to speak of the proposal and any received written testimony will be asked to speak in support, in opposition, or as neutral. Then third, we will have council deliberations. Council members may raise questions or comments regarding testimony of the proposed amendments. D is we close the hearing. Persons who wish to testify, please come to the podium, give your name, address, and sign for the record. You will be given 5 minutes to present your testimony. At this time, is there any council members who wish to disqualify him or herself for any personal or financial interest in this matter before us tonight?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a potential conflict with this as my family may be vendors for an event at that facility, so it's potential.
Okay, thank you. At this time, is there any ex parte communications or pre-hearing contacts? Okay. Does that include any questions we've asked you?
Excuse me, questions to staff are not considered ex parte communication.
At this time, Oregon law requires that all issues be raised if the issues are appealed. Failure to raise the issues at this hearing may be invalidated. Further appeal, failure to raise an issue on the record with sufficient specificity and accommodated by statements of evidence or evidence sufficient to afford the city and all parties to respond to the issue may invalidate their further appeal. Any party wishing to a continuance or keep the record open must make the request while the record is still open. At this time, will staff please make a report?
Thank you, Mayor, Council. So the item before you tonight is did a review recently of our parks code and ordinances and found that we were, as presented in your discussion item at your last meeting, we were not in compliance with certain sections of our parks code in their historical and operational use. Specifically, as mentioned in the title of this here, is consumption of alcohol at Big River Golf Course, the use of golf carts at Big River Golf Course, the use of tobacco at Big River Golf Course, and as well as the we have a provision here as well to update the selling of alcohol at the marina and RV park that would also include businesses. According to our rules, we went out to a bid. We have not done that in the past, but we're looking to do that this year at Umatilla Landing Days, and so we wanted to make sure that that was also included in this as well. You've heard some earlier comments. I'll actually address those now, just so that they can be part of people's public comments if they'd like, and as well as for questions for the council. One, there were no zone changes to the golf course when it became a city asset, when it came in. And it was already, in the city of Umatilla, we have a unique zoning layer called community service. And so even though this was privately owned before, it had that CS designation, and it's been on our zoning maps. You can see that it's usually yellow on those zoning maps. And so when it transitioned from a private asset to a public asset, there was no need to do a zone change because the land use issue was already there for a community service. And so it was envisioned as we adopted our parks master plan. We did that work in 19 and 20 and adopted it in 21 and in 2020. And so it anticipated Big River Golf Course coming into the operational use of the city. There's, I also wanted to talk about pay to play. So we have services here that are pay to play, particularly the RV park specifically. It's a public space, but it's a pay to play feature. The golf course is similar that way, where it's a public space, but it's pay to play. This is more typical in a county park. A lot of boat ramps are pay to play. You've got to pay a $3 launch fee or a $5 launch fee. Pay to play requirements in public facilities are normal. For us here, we have this way. You can think this was just next door in Hermiston. They have an aquatic center. That's a park. It's a pay to play facility. So those pay to play features as part of a park inventory is something that's normal for a parks and recreation system as well. The other thing that we looked at here through this was, again, the park was identified as part of your transportation, as part of your tourism promotion area through ordinance 846. It was identified as a facility that generates trips to and from facilities for the intended uses and purposes or for events, which will in turn generate business in the local communities above and beyond the motel and RV park businesses, creating income that will circulate and replicate in the local economy for the benefit and betterment of all. And so the history of the facility has been there. This is something that staff missed as the park came into public ownership. What happened in the real world as far as day-to-day operation was there was no change. One day it was privately owned and then publicly owned. One day there was alcohol sales and consumption. The next day there were alcohol sales and consumption.
If you ask a clarification on that, so did you have to apply for our own separate organ liquor license?
We did.
There was no separation of differences there. We still had to apply for a new organ liquor license?
We did. Yeah, so we have our own. There's two things that happen with the OLCC. One, we have the facility itself has an OLCC license for both the sales and consumption of alcohol on the premises. And then each staff member has to comply and have their own OLCC license as well to sell that alcohol. So they need to be over 18 years of age. They have to complete the OLCC training and receive their license from that. So we have each of that does occur there at the park and has occurred since the city has operated it. So what this ordinance proposal does here is to bring the city into compliance with its historical use and operations. Yeah, I guess that's all we have for you here. There will be sort of, I guess, future note. There's all our parks code from this. We're going to take a deeper dive at this later over through the summer. But tonight we're focusing on these issues here at Big River Golf Course and at the Marina and RV Park.
Question on the license. It says what is the correct premises are you talking about? It's just inside the clubhouse, or is sale of alcohol permitted on the course as well?
Yeah, so the license that we applied for with the state included the leased areas and city-owned areas. It included both.
Any questions from council on the staff report?
I guess part of my question would be, why do we delineate it as a park? I don't know, in doing my research this last week, it's not common for a city-owned golf course to be considered a park, even with city, it's a muni, so I don't know why we went that direction.
Yeah, I mean, there's multiple ways in which you can operate it. So the city of Echo, their 9-hole course is considered a park. City of Eugene, they have Laurelwood Golf Course. It's considered a city park in their park inventory. Some cities, municipalities have gone that way. Part of that can make it eligible for LGGP, the state parks grants, if it's designated as park space. If it's not designated as park space, it's not eligible for those funds. Also designated as park space, it's eligible for Land and Water Conservation Fund, which is federal funding as well. So though I can't really state that that was part of exactly why we went that route, but those are those benefits as having designated as park.
And it's my understanding that in a park, we can designate open, closed, open to the public, anything of that nature. We just need to make sure it's in our code, right?
Yeah, so I'm unaware of any park that doesn't have an adopted set of park rules, both in our inventory or any other municipality for that matter. Typically, parks are open dawn to dusk, that kind of thing. What the hot topic button these days has been sort of overnight use of the park. People, transients or others that might try to gain illegal access into the park. And so there's a lot of ordinances and ORSs associated with that. But generally speaking, yeah, so we can adopt whatever rules. And that's what you see in some of the proposal in your language here. You'll say in compliance with course rules. And so that's where we can set up days and times of operations, temporary closures, anything as far as for the betterment and the operational use of the facility.
So there's about park rules. It feels like a loose and fast point to be like, hey, we're actually going to change the rule on Tuesday, and you have to wear khakis and you cannot wear shorts. are we able to just change rules whenever we like? Like, what is the recourse and what does that process look like for changing park rules?
Yeah, so each park can have its own rules set up for what it is. Some of them have playgrounds, some of them have ball fields, some of them are a golf course, some of them an RV park, and so on. So each facility, based upon its intended use, has its own set of operational rules. We do not have a formal policy in place that says how those rules are adopted. And so that's something that we could certainly create if that's something that we wanted to do throughout this process.
I think my concern is that it creates an issue where we could really say, we're not going to allow golf courses that are Oregon Ducks colors. You know, make that a rule.
Can we do that?
Yeah, I think we could do that. Yeah, you know, I think like that creates kind of a gray area where in which we can act tyrannically and say, no, we don't want X, Y, and Z for whatever purpose without it actually being, without having a recourse to where a public body can have eyes on it to say, this isn't okay as a rule.
Yeah, it's entirely up to council on how you want to set that formalized process. If you would like any changes to rules, like for example, we have each of our fees, our fee schedules come to you each year, and you run. We just did this last fall when we came to adopting fees at the golf course, or maybe it was this last winter. So we can do that if we wanted to make a proposal. We can create a formal process, send it to the Parks and Recreation Committee, for example, get their feedback, get a recommendation. We could do something like that if you'd like. We can also do it administratively. You can have it where it's just the Parks and Rec Committee and whatever they say to the staff, then we make the like whatever you'd like to do. That's an operation that you could set up, but we do not have a formal process to do that.
It's like with fees, I don't see why we can't have a yearly oversight or just to take a look at what that looks like.
I think that's important for council, especially have the same thing we do with our handbook.
Yeah.
We sit down every year, we read through the handbook, we go, these are the changes and edits. I agree. I think it's really important that we need to see what these rules are to prevent potential, staff oversight. And get more access to it, get more transparency, and have people come in comments about it, saying this rule sucks.
Yeah, so you have your adopted code, and that's what we're looking to amend here tonight. You have obviously your ordinances and your code that's there. So just to be clear, council right now in this public hearing is acting in your legislative capacity, not in your quasi judicial capacity. I know it's weird, you got different hats that you wear, but this is a legislative capacity that we're in here tonight. And so you have that ability to amend. This is the code, not the charter. You have the ability to make that change here. And so yeah, it's entirely up to you on how you want to go about that process on either we have these rules in place that are to amend the code, which is what we're doing here tonight. We're following those rules on code amendment. If you'd like to have a process for park rules specifically, we can certainly create that.
I think we got that.
This is the
Yeah, in your discussion item, there was a lot of great discussion about potential risks and liabilities associated with being non-compliant. So we consulted with legal counsel, and that we identified that this item out of all the code, this is the immediate risk that needs to be addressed here tonight. There are likely others in this code. We need to do a little bit more of a deeper dive to do, but they were not immediately pressing for the immediate risks and liabilities associated with non-compliance here. So this gets us there, and then we'll have an opportunity to review that later.
16 says emergency. This ordinance being necessary for the immediate preservation of public health, safety, and welfare. An emergency is declared to exist. This ordinance shall be taken to effect upon its immediately upon its passage. How is this an emergency?
I mean, he can answer that, but it's my thing. We're at the biggest statement that we had last week is that we're out of compliance with our own rule. So we need to amend it as quickly as we can. That's created. We don't want to make, if we see something wrong, we have to fix it.
My follow-up question is, what constitutes an emergency?
I'm happy to answer, but I'll let Maureen answer that first, and I'm happy to add to it if there's a value there, Maureen. Did you hear the question?
I did. The question was, what constitutes an emergency?
This context.
In this context. So just in the broader context of the city council engaging in its legislative action and legislative authority, An emergency clause, when added to an ordinance, is a provision that allows for that ordinance to become effective immediately. And what constitutes an emergency in this setting, in many times, is really typically in the judgment of the city council in this, and whether or not it is necessary in the judgment of the city council for the ordinance provision to become effective immediately. And so in this case, an emergency clause was used because that allows for the ordinance to become effective as soon as possible after passage, in order for the ordinances to be in line with historic use and practice. And I will kick it over to David to see if he has any other comments that he would like to add.
Yeah, thanks. So that's where I really just kind of echo that there. So I just want to delineate or between the two. This isn't an emergency meeting that was called in less than 24 hours where we had like flooding in 2019, for example. This is emergency clause there that's up to the discretion of the council, whether it's an emergency or not. So as you later tonight, if you are going to vote on this, if you decide to remove that element from there, that you can do that if you'd like. If you don't believe that's the case, that would keep the associated risk with noncompliance to the city for an additional 30 days. And so that's why we added the clause there, so that we can mitigate that risk.
So my other question is, I don't want to be very clear here, but I think as much as anybody else, I love drinking a beer on the back nine. I'm not gonna lie, it's a good time. I want everyone to have drink alcohol on the golf course and to within their rights to be able to enjoy it and have a good time. I'm not against that at all. But my concern is that if I don't see this as personal, I do not see this as an emergency. I see this as, this is a staff mistake. And this is not an emergency. This is something that should go through the correct and normal process that every other ordinance should go through. And it should have been the correct ordinance that we should have gone through when we originally bought the golf course and we continued to serve alcohol and we got the Oregon liquor license. I don't think that, oh no, suddenly we have to fix this because we're selling alcohol. We should have stopped alcohol sales on the park as soon as we figured out about this. Fix this ordinance and then come back and saying temporary service is now back on. We apologize for the inconvenience. We fixed it within 90 days.
I personally don't think it matters. We're here not to fix it, just to fix it.
I think it's not a process.
If you tag it emergency or not emergency, the emergency is the fact that 2 weeks ago, we had a huge disruption and this big discussion about us being in violation of our own laws and rules. So, that put a little bit pressing time on it. So we're following the same process that we normally would. So let's just do it.
But we're not, that we're following an emergency process.
We're doing the same thing. We're still having a public hearing. We're still gonna have a meeting. It's all the same. The process is still the same.
Process is time. The difference is time.
That's
So-
what matters to me, sir.
I think it's an emergency. It's like any business. I think it's like a business and we want this business to keep going on and we're carrying on business and these people expect alcohol when they go and have a fun time. So I think that we want, like any business, I think we should expedite it.
And it's an oversight.
And I don't even golf. But
It's an oversight that we didn't admit that we.
yeah, we need to make it right for those people.
And now we need to make it right.
We don't problem. It's not like we need more time. I mean, I don't think you guys think we need more time to figure out how to resolve the problem. I personally.
No, just fix it.
I think the issue of a ordinance and the reason we do public hearings on multiple different readings is to allow the public to fully understand why we're changing the ordinance. So that they fully digest it. There's a reason the process is in place for 60 years.
Well, if I could, Mayor, I'd like to be clear. This is allowed in your charter and in your code. I recognize that there's a sort of standard operating procedure is 2 separate readings at 2 separate meetings, but your code does allow for instances to be read twice in a single meeting and passed. It has more stringent requirements. So in order for this ordinance to pass, if the council would vote that way tonight, it requires a unanimous vote rather than a majority vote. A unanimous vote of the councilors that are present. So whereas if this was at a second meeting, it could pass on a 3-2 vote instead. So those are sort of the checks and balances of that code that provide that higher level of stringency.
And then further questions for staff. On page 18, section A, number 9, says the consumption of any alcoholic beverage except at the Big River Golf Course in compliance with its course rules or as allowed under subsection 161D of this chapter. So I go over 161D, it specifies, directly calls out use of the marina. So I'm curious, are we going to count the marina park as the RV park, or is that separate? Because the RV park, I see the consumption of alcohol at the RV park. I go to the marina almost every night. It doesn't clearly state the RV park. Are we not going to allow alcohol consumption on the RV park?
Give me just a moment, Mayor.
And to continue reading there, it says, prior to community events at the Umatilla Marina adjacent but not included, the Umatilla Marina and the Umatilla RV Park specifically says not included under that clause. So are we going to have to add the RV park separately?
It's a great question. I don't know the answer. I can see if Maureen might know that for us. I do know that our RV park falls under a separate set of ORS that falls under hotel rules. So I'm not entirely certain where we're at with that.
Right now, we'll still subsection.
But-
Subsection D or sorry, chapter 6, section.
Well,
6.
I think, I'm sorry, Mayor, I didn't mean to interrupt. I think that the catch here is this is the sell and service of alcoholic beverages, not the consumption, rather than the consumption. This is the sell. We don't sell alcohol at the RV park.
Yeah. On section number 9, 762A, section 9, the consumption of any alcoholic beverage, except at the Big River Golf Course in compliance with course rules or under allowed under 761D. 761D does not specifically say we're allowed to consume alcohol anywhere else except for the Umatilla Marina Park. It does not say the RV park. It literally says explicitly not at the RV park. And then you're right, it does say the sale of alcohol. That rule that says consumption points back to this rule that says sale. So I'm just curious about that one.
Okay.
And then, for example, we continue to look at that, says smoking, including the use of e-cigarettes or use of other tobacco products, except at the Big River Golf Course or at the Umatilla RV Park in compliance with the park rules. So in that rule, that's fine. You can still smoke at the Umatilla RV Park, but you cannot consume alcohol at the RV Park, including with our own kids.
Yeah, we have to change that wording.
Maureen, do you have any thoughts?
I'm thinking about this in the context of how this proposal comes to the council today. That this proposal comes to the council in the context of making the immediate changes, changes as immediate as possible to bring practice into compliance with historic, or to bring the ordinances into compliance with historic use of the golf course. And the piece regarding the Marina Park is a small change that was discussed at the last city council meeting, specifically relevant to a particular event that the city does at the Umatilla Marina Park. And my understanding and read of the language, without having a detailed understanding of that event at the park, is that this minor change would be sufficient to address the city's plans to potentially work with a business as opposed to the nonprofit or civic fraternal charitable organization that it's worked with in the past to sell and serve alcoholic beverages for that particular event. Now, the questions that are being raised, and again, since I can't see the video feed, I believe that was the mayor who is raising the questions around consumption of alcohol at the Umatilla RV Park, are certainly valid and good questions to be raised. And I believe, as staff stated during the initial presentation of this ordinance, my understanding is that the staff does plan to work in a deliberative manner over the summer to review the park rules writ large, to address a variety of different thoughts around ways that the park rules and regulations could potentially be updated. And so this would be a helpful flag and in the context of those conversations. But it was not my understanding in the drafting of this particular ordinance that the question that's being raised around consumption within the Umatilla RV Park was part of that conversation.
Yeah, so my concern is then this, if Sergeant Dyke drives past the Marina RV Park and sees someone consuming alcohol, then within city code and our ordinance, then he should apply a fine, even if we pass it tonight. Someone's drinking a beer in the RV park, which, to be frank, I completely support. Someone should be able to drink alcohol at the RV park. Then that person should be served a fine of $250 up to 5 days in jail.
Doesn't that fall under the provision of when you're renting that space, that is your space? That's your RV, that's your dwelling.
Yeah, we do have rules like that, but you can in theory have a hotel, for example, or an RV park that has dry policies.
So this would be a drug. Specifically says you're not enabling them to consume alcohol at the Umatilla Marina, Umatilla RV Park. So do we fix it? Do we do a rereading? How do we fix this?
Yeah, I mean, it's entirely up to you. You can make changes here, and I would recommend probably waiting until we get to the second reading after we have an opportunity to hear public comment. But you could, unless Maureen tells us otherwise, you could make number 9 look similar to number 10, where you have Big River Golf Course or the Umatilla Marina RV Park in compliance with their respective park rules. So that covers the bases for both of those.
Yeah, really fix it. I just want to ensure that if we're going to be working in this gray area, that we fully understand the gray area, keep trying to flashlights when they need to shine. And my concern is that number 9 puts us right back in the situation we were just in.
Just at a different space.
Any further questions right now for staff regarding the first part of our public hearing? I like muddying the waters. Okay, moving on now to public testimony. David, I have a further thing. Okay. Are there any in attendance this evening who would like to speak in support of the proposal? Any in support, Dave? Okay. I'm just gonna read these both in the neutral category, just to be fair. I don't know, they didn't specify. I've read both of these before, but they didn't specify, so I'll read it neutral and move on from there. Are there any in the audience that are in opposition of this proposal? At this time, please approach the dais.
I think you have the sign up sheet you might be able to call.
Don't have.
Do you have any back there, Dyke?
This is the public hearing.
We have some others. We'll get those to you. You have, go ahead and grab all 3.
There you go, sir.
I'll take it.
Glad you have done.
No bullets though.
No.
Sorry about that. Thank you very much for patience with this process. At this time, we have Kyle Syke. Use your name and address.
That's okay. Well, they can hear us. That's
2 to 5 minutes.
Oh.
And we'll apply.
maybe.
House Item 120 Rio Center. City council members, thank you for your service for me. Tonight, you have yet another important decision to make. When I used to be able to say I could trust this council to do the right thing. Bring important decisions, but I'm completely out of trust with this council. Really, this isn't a tough decision you have to make. You're making a long-lasting mistake made by the city, right, by placing alcohol sales back to the golf course. It makes sense, and it should be happening. What shouldn't be happening is the city thumbing its nose at our public by breaking its own ordinances and selling, allowing people to camp, have fires, stay overnight, consume alcohol, and buy alcohol in people's backyards. I urge you to slow down. Make a plan and make this problem. Breaking the law and trust of the public isn't new to this council or city. As a council, you most recently have silenced, disregarded, and ignored public comment on numerous issues such as rock blocks, landing days, water and safety concerns, and all of those have broken the law. You have backed and supported members of this government that have unethical behaviors that have been identified and cited by the Oregon Ethics Commission, clearly breaking our own city charter, yes, and breaking the law. You've also pushed through a police station bond proposal without proper steps and public input, and misled voters with faulty math, statistics, and graphs, losing this public's trust and breaking the law. You've allowed for new transmission lines built in McNary, damaged views, harming wildlife, lowering property value. In making your decision, you relied upon incomplete minutes, incomplete recordings of meetings, breaking public meeting law, and destroying trust. You've also been supporting unethical distribution of enterprise zone funds, allowing a budget crisis in taxing districts during a time of out of control population growth, traffic, and commerce to this area. Yes, the fire district has talked to and asked the county for funds. And we've talked to them over and over again. And yet you're breaking the trust here as well. The list goes on and on. The more laws and trust you break, the more it seems you will continue to do so. Amidst all this, I strongly feel that Umatilla is worth fighting for. And I will not allow this behavior to go unchecked. Your choice is simple. Pause. There is no emergency tonight. This mistake has been going on for years. Do the right thing and re-engage with the community. Rebuild our trust. Here's an example of lost opportunity for you. The Parks and Recreation Committee met last week. Did you guys ask them about a rule change that directly affects their parks? I don't live near a park, and I will not have property value impacted by this decision tonight, but I do know what it's like to have 10 days notice to fight a transmission line being built in my backyard. And I would think you would do better for the people that live around these parks. Did they get a letter 10 days ahead of time? Or are you surprising them with this tonight? Rebuild trust, re-engage with the community, and search out opportunities like the one I mentioned to be the leaders that you agreed upon, you agreed to be when you decided to be on this council. Thank you.
Thank you, Kyle.
I'm Heidi Seid. I have your letter. Would you like to read it in the affirmative, or would you want it to be in the negative or in the neutral? Negative. Here's your letter. I'll switch to the end of the list if you'd like to read it. Thank you. Next up, we have Andrew Morris. Mrs. Seid, could you please sign the sign sheet? Thank you.
Hi, good evening. Can you hear me?
No. You have the other microphone, Dave. Or is it-
Oh. I think it's on now.
No.
Oh, that's great.
Green doesn't mean it's gonna work.
We'll bring in another mic, Andrew.
The microphone here, if not, was maybe how you sit here, Mrs. Wheeler's station and just read. Speak out loud. Yeah, maybe we can move it over.
Well, it's wireless. Is that right? Okay, how about now?
No. doesn't like spoken, it's tapping, but it's spoken word. Yeah. Yeah, you really like, you basically gotta talk loud into the microphone.
So in college, when we're running for student body, government, we were told to eat it like an ice cream cone.
There you go, that's what we practice, yeah.
Anyway, I do echo,
So can you make sure you put your name and address?
oh, sorry,
Say
Andrew
it.
Morris, 402 Walla Walla Street. So Kyle's comments, we've all seen in the news recently, ethics issues that this council has. I'm here tonight though. I'm looking at this, my, perspective of over 25 years, government history, writing, statute, regulation, etc. Not an emergency. We're not looking at floods. We're not looking at earthquake or dam breaking. We're looking at the city made a mistake. That's what this is. The city made a mistake. The council made a mistake. The council should have been aware when the golf course was restricted, what was happening. So the emergency is on you as the council. It's not on us as the residents. That's something that should be considered. So to jam this through the quick process where there's clearly mistakes in the ordinance. That ordinance only covers alcohol and tobacco. It's not even a fully written ordinance. It's formally written. The ordinance clearly has conflicts. As a government employee, I've done oversight. We would come in and take away funding from entities like this because of the issues that you guys are dealing with. We would go in and correct state laws and tell states correct laws. We would go to cities and say correct laws. Because this is poorly written. You need time to think. You say, okay, well, we'll work on this over the summer. Well, landing days are next month. So you have talked about alcohol consumption. Anyway, so I don't view this as an emergency per se. It needs to be more carefully written and input from the neighbors and neighborhood per the city charter that was not followed when the golf course was bought, which is the law that the city council and staff should follow. And I'm asking why the charter wasn't followed. Why the council didn't follow the city charter. And we're now 4 years, 5 years later, oh, it's an emergency. Why wasn't the city charter followed? So lack of action does not equate an emergency. Still, last week, I wasn't here, but the sale of alcohol was discussed, or 2 weeks ago. So yes, there was a temporary hold on alcohol sale, but it didn't stop the golf course from having a truck sell whiskey this weekend at the golf course. So even if you pass this ordinance tonight, it doesn't prevent lawsuits from happening over the last 4 years, retroactively.
That's
That's
time.
one thing to be
Sorry,
considered.
Andrew.
So,
Next up, we have Tess White Snyder.
because the microphone issue, I have like 2 more minutes.
Can we give him, we have, what, go another minute?
One more.
We've already went.
When I go back here.
No, this is at my discretion though. Like, I can make a decision on this. I think that seems fair. I think 1 minute for microphone or technology issues would be sufficient.
Can someone read it for him? And go on, if you have that,
Give 1 minute, this one.
Thank you. I just wanted to say several points. One, if it's a public park, you should be able to walk on it, walking dogs, those are issues. Pay for play is one thing, private membership is another. Drunk golfers, I've had to deal with drunk golfers in my yard in the past, so there need to be rules, and rules need to be followed. And that is what I really wanted to say.
Perfect. Thank you very much. That's this, and we appreciate your time. Thank you. No microphone issues. 5 minutes. Please take your name and address.
Teresa, Tess White Snyder, 76 Rio Santa Street. So I'm coming to you tonight because I'm a very concerned citizen. I'm a golfer, and I voiced my concerns when the first Rock the Lux meetings were held. I remember Dave saying, Tess, I take it seriously if you golf every day, but you don't, so that's that. Kind of set the precedence for everyone. My concerns were not only that Rock the Lux would limit my time to play and the potential damage to the course, but also the noise and the increase in traffic could affect our whole neighborhood, and particularly those who live within close proximity of the golf course. I'll admit that the noise and traffic on Rio Santa Street were not problematic but to those neighbors close to the stage, it's been very problematic and caused some health problems. And it makes me really sad for the people that are here tonight that have had to endure that and be met at meetings here with no remorse or no sympathy for those people. I don't believe, or you are in violation of these rules by serving alcohol, allowing excessive noise within 50 feet of houses, and camping as the golf course is considered a public park. I don't believe this was an accidental oversight. I think you had a vision of what you wanted to do and pushed it through, no matter what. It's your job to know the rules and enforce them. And by not doing so and losing confidence in your decisions and your underlying motives. As of today, the power poles and prep work are underway for the UEC transmission line. This has caused great emotional distress, financial losses, not only to me, but my neighbors. And it's made worse knowing that you were planning this for years and we found out about it 10 days prior to the meeting. It is all I can do to even talk about this and not start crying. This is my retirement house. I don't have any more money to do anything different. Now I'm stuck with this mess. The citizens of Umatilla deserve honesty and for you to consider our best interests, not just businesses moving in that are dictating what's happening in our town. Please be accountable in your decisions tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we will be in Patrick.
I live at Wallow Street in Matilda. And I spoke to you earlier, in general terms, now in more specific terms with respect to this ordinance. I echo everything that's probably covered the other public comment before me. This is not an emergency. You had a discussion about it 2 weeks ago. The golf course is still running. The only reason you want to do this right now as an emergency is for self-protection, for protection of the city council, which is fine. It's a reason. Councilmember Thunderbuck said a few minutes ago that, wrote down here, it's a business emergency. Yes, it's an oversight emergency. The text right now that you're going to vote on tonight says the city of Umatilla, Oregon ordains as follows. Emergency, 2 points. This ordinance, being necessary for the immediate preservation of the public health, safety, and welfare. An emergency is declared to exist, and this ordinance shall take effect immediately upon its passage. Are you being truthful if you signed to that? Is this for the immediate preservation of the public health, safety, and welfare? Again, Ms. Thunberg said this is a business emergency. It's an oversight emergency. It is not for the immediate preservation of the public health, safety, and welfare. So I'm not against a golf course being run like a golf course. If people want to drink beer, great, and be alcohol sales, but pushing this through is breaking your trust with the public. Pushing this through this way is like thumbing your noses to us, the public. It is not getting you any further along by pushing it through. When visibly there's some errors in it. There's errors in the text. There's the problem with this emergency clause. There's problems with coordination with other ordinances. Pushing it through is causing problems already. You haven't even voted, not to mention what it says to those of us who are in the public who are not being respected. So many issues that come up when you're grouping the golf course as under the term of park. None of those are being addressed. Yes, you say you're going to address them later, but by pushing this through this way, you're basically saying, we're not admitting that we're in error. We're not trying to figure out why we made a mistake. We're just going to cover our backsides. That doesn't come across well to the public. As other people said before me, you have affected our lives personally. You have affected our retirement homes. You've affected the way that we live. And of course, you didn't do that on purpose, but that's what's happened. Taking your time, taking a pause, pressing pause, and trying to restart this in a way that's more ethical, that's more careful, is what you do right now. Thank you.
I've got a quick question for our legal counsel here. What Ms. Padgett just mentioned is it says the immediate preservation of public health, safety, and welfare. How is the sale of alcohol, public health, safety, or welfare of the city of Umatilla?
Mayor Saib, did someone else speak up?
Just you, you're good. This is an echo.
Okay. The emergency clause language that you see in the ordinance is the standard language for emergency clause provisions that are used in legislative text within the context of city government. And I will just echo and kind of repeat what I stated earlier, and that may be helpful context here in terms of when the phrase emergency is used, that really comes up in two separate contexts in city governance. One is an emergency justifying a form of special meeting that may be called with less than 24 hours notice under the Oregon Public Meetings Law. And that is the type of emergency where the governing body must show an actual emergency that's going to be scrutinized very closely. So it's the type of emergency that folks may be referring to in terms of like a weather emergency or that sort of thing. An emergency clause on legislative action, which is the text that you see before you today, is a standard procedure that is commonly used in the passage of legislation in both state and local legislation. And it is a standard clause that allows for the legislation to become operative more quickly if it is more quickly than the standard operative date for that ordinance, if it is if that is desired by the governing body that is passing the ordinance. Here in the city of Umatilla, it is authorized under section 17 of your city charter. Your ordinances normally take effect on the 30th day after adoption, but they can take effect on any later day that is provided in the ordinance, or they may take effect as soon as adopted, or another date that is less than 30 days afterwards if it contains an emergency clause. And so the emergency clause that you see there is simply the standard text for an emergency clause.
So Ms. McGee, I've got a follow-up question on that. I understand that it's the emergency clause is just the boilerplate standard issue. I fully understand that. And I understand that we're using it in the second context of what you described. My point, though, is does this potentially open us to further litigation or potential lawsuit from individuals within the community to sue us for failure to understand that this is not an emergency within public health, safety, or welfare?
I do not believe so. I do not also believe that is something that we may want to discuss in executive session. But I will again repeat that this is the standard language for emergency clauses that are used in the second circumstance that I explained under section 17 of your city charter, and it is a very standard procedure.
Any other questions before we move on, council? Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. All right, I did mean to interrupt, but I have a clarifying question. Okay, there's no, Green, do you have a further question?
No.
Okay. All right, how you say?
Side 120. I want to be crystal clear. I love that our city owns a golf course. I want golfers in our community to be able to enjoy alcoholic drinks on the course while they golf. I want live music in our community in the right places, and I don't mind people enjoying drinking a beer garden while they enjoy a concert. I support well-planned industrial development. I just want the city to start planning ahead of action. I want the city to hold itself to the same rules and processes as everyone else. I want you to follow your own charter and hold yourselves and your staff accountable for the laws you've been entrusted by the community to make. That's why this whole situation has me back. The accidental discovery of this surprise rule breaking by the city of its own rules took me off guard last meeting. I knew these issues had been brought up in the pre-Rock the Walks neighborhood meetings. So this discrepancy shouldn't have been a surprise to staff because it had been addressed many times at those meetings. Since your last meeting, I've been bothered by the city's surprise. I served on the planning commission for over 20 years, and I was just sure we had changed some zoning rules on this. I finally sat down, looked it up, and sure enough, we had. The planning commission and the city council did address alcohol sales and followed all the processes in full. It ironically all began with the realization that the city had allowed businesses to operate in violation of city rules, essentially breaking its own rules. Sound familiar? The downtown zone at that time banned bars within 500 feet of a park, school, or library, which essentially wiped out all of downtown. So in that case, the rules were changed through the full process to reflect 250 feet from the school as the new limit in some zones. The city should have addressed what they knew they had in practice with alcohol sales at the golf course and marina and in planning stages for Rock the Locks at the same time. Ironically, the zones that they changed were not the ones that you're currently up against right now, even though they knew that. Timing is important on all of this. The parks rules were created in 2015 by the Parks and Rec Committee and then adopted by the council. The golf course was purchased by the city in December of 2020. The Rock the Locks Festival was mentioned in the council goals in 21 to 23, and landing days have been going on for decades. The alcohol sales at all these places were very known and planned for by staff and the council by the time the planning commission worked through the process of ZC 122, amending zoning requirements for the city of Umatilla in 2022. This all should have been addressed then. The city and the staff and the council should know their charter. It's their job and it's your job. Planning Commission discussed alcohol and zoning in January of 2022. City Council discussed it at the February 1st meeting. Councilors Funderburk, Wheeler, and Duffloff were all there. In March, Planning Commission had hearings on 2 zoning issues. ZC 122, which simplified zoning to match practice and allow more alcohol sales, and PA 122, which corrected zoning issues for the city's golf course. City Council had a public hearing April 5th for these topics. Councilors Duffloff and Funderburk were both present. May 3rd, City Council, the process became final with ordinances 855 and 856 were unanimously approved. Councilors Duffloff, Wheeler, Funderburk, all present, all voted for it. It's concerning that you're here today to hold 2 quick hearings and then approve the changes immediately when Parks and Rec met last Thursday, but they weren't told about this. Not even on their agenda, not a discussion. Planning Commission hasn't reviewed this. You are right to recognize you have a problem and try to fix it. The calling it an emergency to bypass public notice and proper input is wrong. Use your processes. Use your Parks and Rec committee. Use your planning committee. Use your hearings and notice process to be sure you are transparent, legal, and above board. I don't live on the park or golf course, and my opinion doesn't matter nearly as much as those who do. But I will never, ever forget the fierce sense of betrayal that I felt and still feel today when you gave me 10 days of notice before approving transmission lines you've been planning for years in my backyard, devaluing my property and the enjoyment in my own home. Your actions have caused us to really start tuning in and watching, and it's starting to become clear that you have a tendency to act first, plan later. Everything's an accident. Everything's we just didn't know. We should have been educated. No, do better. Just do better. Please slow down. Start doing things that don't look like constant cover-ups. Please rebuild trust. We raise concerns. We are not attacking you. We just want a livable community that thrives just like you do. You make the laws for us. We need you to follow them too. The laws and processes are there for a reason. Use them. There is no us versus you. It's us and you. And we all want great things for you, Attila. We're just the ones who rely upon you to ensure that others do it the right way and that you. Thanks for your service. And thank you for being fast sponsors.
Okay, and then last but not least, Denise Pratt submitted this to me in neither basket for positive or in opposition or in support. Thus, I will read it in the neutral unless otherwise advised by legal counsel or by staff.
Neutral seems appropriate.
Neutral seems appropriate, or do we concur with legal counsel, Mr. Heath?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay. Dear Mayor Seif and City Council, this is Denise Pratt, 148 Rio Center Street in Umatilla, Oregon, 97882. Dear Mayor Seif and City Council, I apologize that I'm not able to attend this council meeting in person. I would like to put in my 2 cents about the current emergency issue regarding changing the city charter to approve alcohol, camping, smoking, and loud music for parks and recreation, specifically for Landing Days and Rock the Locks Music Festival. Am I mad? Yes. Fuming. In fact, I am mad over the proposed changes. No. So why am I mad? It's because the rules are for something you want to be an emergency and can be changed quickly to accommodate your needs. While something many citizens don't need to follow city charter rules. There's nothing we can do about that. I'm speaking, of course, about UBC putting in those power lines and poles across the river. We're given 10 days of notice for the approval hearing and planning commission. We were told that this had been in the works for over 2 years, yet nothing has been brought to the citizens' attention. I was told that not everything that was being planned could be brought to the citizens' attention. We can't get everything accomplished. I strongly suggest the city is doing too many projects all at once, and that a lot of them are being done too quickly. It is nearly impossible to keep up. I am concerned that these projects are not more transparent. Why are the rules changed when you want them and not when we, the citizens, are requesting them? We're not going out. We're not out to get you. Many of the citizens that I've spoken with feel that their concerns are being overlooked by my own representatives due to decisions made in haste. You, the city council, are our advocates. We implore you to do more through investigation, independent fact-checking, and more questions of issues that are brought in front for you for your decisions. Thank you for your service. Signed, Denise Pratt. And I want to say thank you again to my fellow council member up here to remind me that Linda Brink, which you mentioned you'd like to speak to the other one. Can you have you sign up this other sheet on your way by when you come? When you're done speaking, you can sign on your way by. No rush.
Linda Frank, and I live at 120 Rio Senda. I am here not because I necessarily oppose the resolutions. I oppose the process. But because I oppose the process, you must know that your handling of the UEC issue created an atmosphere of distrust within you. As citizens, we very much want to work within the system. The issue today is that we want you to work within the system too. Instead, you break your own rules for years. Then, when there is enough hubbub about that, you call an emergency meeting. There is no public notice, just as there was almost no notice regarding the transmission lines. My understanding is that the original resolution regarding the parks was initiated by the Parks and Recreation Committee. Shouldn't these changes at least be on their agenda before they end up here in an emergency? Can't you see how this creates distrust? Can't you see how we feel like you're always trying to sneak things by us? This is not the relationship that we want with our city council. We want to work with the council and the mayor. However, council and especially the city manager need to be much more transparent before they can begin to build our trust. We're not going away.
Can you fill us back out real quick? No, you're totally fine. Okay. This time, is there any questions for staff on that section of the?
Hey Dave, what are the repercussions, if this doesn't pass today, is it just basically the sale of alcohol is gonna cease until we go back and the drawing board and get like all these little things revised? Is that the extent of it? Or is there other things, I'm not a lawyer, obviously, so I just wanna know what are the legal ramifications and what are some of the, if we were to go and just clean up, like, cause there's obviously a couple little things here and there. If we went to clean it and just, got it straightened out and then brought it back up at the next meeting or something.
Yeah, so there's a couple different options that you could do moving forward. So the proposal here tonight is to pass in one meeting with the first and second reading, and to this course that we're on here tonight, and to, if it passed by unanimous decision, it could be effective immediately. An alternative would be to hold another hearing at your next meeting and have an opportunity to vote then. That would then, you could still either include the emergency clause then or not, as presented by legal counsel. So it can either be effective immediately at that meeting or 30 days from if it were to pass. In that instance, it would require just a majority vote rather than a unanimous vote of all the councilors present. As far as the access to or the risks or liabilities associated with it, there's a few. Some have to do with, I'll go down a couple of them. So one, if alcohol were to cease there could be an argument made by members of the course that their membership is not the same membership that they purchased because there's a lesser value of the services they receive, particularly alcohol consumption at the course. So there may be some sort of financial liability associated with that. I'm not sure what that might be. We'd have to look into that further and see if there could be some sort of value or something associated with that. The other could be if the course continues to allow the consumption of alcohol on the course and somebody were to create some sort of property damage, they go out into the street or they injure another person or something like that without that rule there, that could expose us to another level of risk or liability, and may actually not be covered by our insurance that we have there at the course. So there are associated risk and liabilities with operating this way. So you can look at it, those are the main two on, if you stop today and wait for this to come into effect either 2 weeks from now or 30 days from now or 6 weeks from now, depending on which one of those ways you move forward, there's different risks associated with each of those.
I think one clarification you just mentioned, insurance. If there was,
I'm not saying, I'm saying it may not. We'd have to look at that, yeah.
so currently right now, I rescind my verse of my question.
Okay.
I just think that, I just more of a comment, we're kind of damned if we're doing, damned if we don't. We're in a position where obviously we failed to do something, i.e. us, the council, failed to hold the feet to the fire with the staff. I'll take responsibility for that 100%. Should we have seen it when we were passing the ordinances? Sure. There's different, in my mind, the way of thinking that when we were passing the zoning of downtown alcohol, it's a lot different than thinking outside as far as alcohol for the golf course and for the RV park. But now that we see a deficiency, I think that it is an emergency that we get it as soon as we can. I do apologize to the citizens that won't have a 2-week preparation to bring more comment. And I think that's the only thing we're really missing in the process that we're doing now and in doing an emergency one. I do appreciate the fact that we have people here that are telling us their apprehension on it. And most of them are talking about what I see is two things. Number one, we're doing the center of emergency. It isn't that anybody doesn't want the ordinance to pass. I don't get that understanding that nobody's like, hey, you don't pass this ordinance. I do get the process. The process is expedited, and it's only because I think it kind of lit a fire under everybody when we had a heated discussion 8 weeks ago, and we wanted to make it right. So I think that kind of drove it. And then the second piece was the transparency and people bringing up still the UEC stuff. That's a whole another conversation. I do live on Rio Cinda, and that's, but it's all a process. And I understand that you feel that you're not getting the answers or the information that you need, and you feel that we're hiding something. I don't think I personally am, but maybe I'm not seeing something. Again, I take 100% responsibility for not knowing that, 1,000%. But I believe that we need to get this done because I want to limit our exposure, or I don't even want to say exposure. We did something wrong. We got to fix it. The right thing to do is fix it. So.
Yeah, I hate the fact
So,
that we're
hold on, real quick, before we have debate back and forth, I want to make sure that at this time, we're moving on to section number 7.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, you're good. I just want to make sure that we're moving on, that there is, we're making sure that we're now in the council deliberation section. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and just also a point of clarification. So we're still in first reading. So you have opportunities for discussion, deliberation, debate now. We'll wrap that up and you'll move into a second reading. We'll do this whole process as again. If anybody wants to provide public comment again, they'll have an opportunity to do that. You'll have a further opportunity to discuss, deliberate, and debate.
We have this divide. We need them up now. We get a second sheet.
Yeah, there's another setback here.
At this time, it's council discussion point. As you were, Mr. McCall.
Okay. But it's just one of the things where like, I don't want, like you said, we're in a rock and a hard place. We're right now, we found a problem, right? And we did have a heated discussion last time. We did. And so it's like one of those things where this is a pretty urgent thing to get resolved, right? And I hate that we didn't have more time, but the thing is, it's like, what do we do? Right now, if we don't do something, we're open to various kind of problems, the insurance and some other things like that. And it's just one of those things.
Right. So I think for me, my point and my issue with this is I am super concerned that we pass this ordinance under the false pretenses that this is an emergency. We are opening ourselves up to further litigation. Instead of just saying, oh, we're going to kick this rock down the road, we are opening ourselves up for a secondary lawsuit that says the city of Umatilla wrongfully has passed ordinance number 875 under false pretenses of the preservation of public health, safety, and welfare.
Yeah, and I don't like,
that.
but like the attorney was saying, there's two different forms of, but it's written here.
But I understand that there's two parts. We're using it too, which is means context, which is we have written here.
Right.
We have to do it under the immediate preservation of public health, safety, and welfare. Consumption of alcohol on a city park. Much as I think it's a great idea, as much as I'm all for it, as much as I want to drink a beer, playing golf on the back nine. That is not preservation of public health, public safety, or welfare.
I don't, I mean, I agree with what you're saying, it's not, but in the same context, we're fixing wrong. And it has nothing to do specifically with drinking alcohol on the golf course. It has to do with cleaning up the verbiage. This is the clerical error that we're fixing.
Right, but I'm saying we're potentially creating a secondary clerical error.
But from what Darren's saying though, that it is an emergency to fix the problem we found, but I understand what you're saying too.
You're right.
Yeah.
It is an emergency, we have to fix this.
Right.
But we can't use the emergency clause that specifically says the preservation of public health, safety, and welfare. We cannot use that clause under false pretenses. If we use it under false pretenses, which unless we're saying that there's risk of someone potentially.
I don't know, we can beat this dog to death, but the end result is, and I still, when I'm paying someone $500 an hour for their opinion, their education and expertise, when the lawyer tells me that it's this right here, and we're following the guidelines we're supposed to, then I'm going to follow that.
So I mean, real quick, Ms. McGee, can you give us a point of clarification? Would it be false pretenses for the preservation of public health, safety, and welfare?
Mayor Saib, as I stated earlier, this language is the standard language that is used for an emergency clause on a bill. And then what you are doing right now is an ordinance bill that under your city charter may have an emergency clause on it using this text. And it would become effective, and it is within the prerogative of the city council to determine whether they believe that an emergency clause allowing the bill to become operative more than or earlier than 30 days after its standard operative date is allowed. I do not see this being something that would raise legal liability. This is a perfectly acceptable situation to use an emergency clause.
So can you give me a demonstration of how this is public health, safety, or welfare?
Mr. Mayor, I'm not here to allow.
No, you don't get to ask you to interrupt my questions, same way I don't get to interrupt yours. Can you give me a demonstration or a case law that says this is public safety, public health, or welfare?
I do not know at this particular time whether or not there is case law that specifically parses out the text of standard emergency clauses that are used on or used within this context of ordinance drafting. That is something that I would need to look into. But what I can tell you is that this is the standard emergency clause text that is used, that is authorized both under the Oregon Constitution and is authorized under your city charter if in the prerogative of the governing body, you believe that there is a reason that the legislation should go into effect earlier than the standard operative date. And if it is in the prerogative of your governing body that you do not believe it should go into effect earlier than the standard operative date, which I believe here is 30 days, then you could amend the bill to take the emergency clause off.
Thank you. Is there any further question or debate from council?
No, not for me.
Thank you. Councilmember Funderburg. Councilmember Joel.
Yeah, I just want to know, is it something that a normal, most cities would do? Like, would they have this emergency, they're trying to bring it up to code? Just any other city, was this something like a normal thing that they would do?
So I would say the general standard operating procedure for most cities is to, when they pass an ordinance, is at two separate meetings, and that's what your charter calls for. It does provide to pass it in one night. So we're following that section of our charter here tonight to be able to update an ordinance under one meeting. So I don't know if I could say that it's normal. I would say that most municipalities that I'm aware of have both of these operations allowed in their charter that allow standard operating procedure, two meetings, or to be able to adopt it under one.
You have a ordinance with alcohol, having a less time frame than 30 days. With that, is that a normal thing? Like get it passed earlier.
Hold on, what is this?
Nancy's got a whole script there. Dave, would you read that for us? Because I can't read that far.
Sure. All right, so city recorder writes, the ordinance demonstrates the city's commitment to public health, safety, and welfare by establishing clear guidelines for alcohol and tobacco use in designated areas, thereby promoting responsible consumption and reducing potential public disturbances. Allowing golf cart use at the golf course enhances accessibility and safety for patrons, particularly those with mobility challenges. By updating the public parks code, the city ensures that community events are conducted in a manner that balances recreational enjoyment with public safety considerations. These measures reflect the city's proactive approach to managing public spaces, ensuring that they are used responsibly and safely, which aligns with broader public health and welfare objectives.
Nancy? Okay. Any more questions? Okay.
I was just wanting to know if that's a normal thing for a city to pass it in, immediately versus 30 days or on something this specific.
Yeah, I would say the question is very specific and the circumstance is very specific. I'm not really aware of any. I'd have to look into other municipalities if they've had, when it comes to alcohol consumption at a golf course. It's just such a nuanced topic. It requires more research.
That's no. Any questions? Bruce, any other questions? Okay. If no further testimony exists, is there any further testimony on the first public hearing? At this time, no further testimony exists. At this time, we're looking for a motion to close the public hearing and enter back into our regular meeting.
You can stay in public hearing and move on to second reading, Mayor. Yeah.
The whole script, yeah.
You do.
The public hearing will now be open to be considered for the, this says first reading, so should I just edit it?
Oh, yeah, it's just a second reading, sorry.
At this time, real quick, can we do a bio break between the first and second one for a recess? We have a motion, I'm looking for a motion, have a recess, 5-minute recess,
May I make a motion that we have bio break recess,
5-minute recess.
5-minute recess?
Perfect. Can we get a second motion, please?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Yeah. Oh, yeah, roll call. Yeah. Just say yes, okay, move on. It's gonna break.
Aye.
Counselor Duffloff, Counselor Katie McMillan, Counselor Dennis McMillan,
At 8:45. And then
meeting. Thank you very much. This time we're reading the meeting. We'll go ahead and I will start reading of the second reading of our script here. Moving on to a public hearing, will now open to consider the second reading of ordinance number 875, an ordinance amending Title 7, Chapter 6 of the Umatilla Municipal Code to update the Public Parks Code to expand those authorized to sell and serve alcoholic beverages during community events at the Umatilla Marina Park to include an exemption for alcohol consumption at the Umatilla Big River Golf Course, to provide the use of golf carts at Big River Golf Course, and to provide an exception of tobacco use at the Big River Golf Course and the Umatilla RV Park. The procedure I'd like to follow in this this evening is in this manner: a report from staff, public testimony, members of the audience who wish to speak a proposal, and any received written testimony will be asked to speak in support of the opposition, in neutral, or in support, or in opposition of, or as neutral. And the next step will be council deliberations. Council members may raise any questions or comments regarding the testimony of the proposed amendment. And then D is to thus close the hearing. Persons wish to testify, please come to the podium, leave your name, address, and sign in for the record. You will be 5 minutes to present your testimony. Is there any council member who wishes to disqualify him or herself for any personal or financial interest in this matter before us tonight?
Again, I'll have to make a potential conflict as my family may provide alcohol services for events.
Does any council member want to report any significant ex parte or pre-hearing contacts? Okay. Oral law requires that all issues be raised if the issue are to be appealed further, failure to raise the issues at this hearing may invalidate their further appeal. Failure to raise an issue on the record with sufficient specificity and accommodated by statements or evidence sufficient to afford the city and all parties to respond to the issue may invalidate their further appeal. Any party wishing to a continuance or keep the record open must make that request for the record. This time we're looking for a presentation from staff.
Thank you, Mayor. Council, I'll be brief. Just go off of your summary here. The review of the Parks Code resulted in discrepancy between the historical use and operations regarding the sale and consumption of alcohol at the Big River Golf Course and what the code specifically allows throughout the parks system. These proposed code amendment brings the code and the historical use of operations into alignment.
Okay. Any questions from council at this time? David, are we supposed to, we talked about this as well. In the first reading, we talked about issues with section 761, subsection D about, wrong section. Section 762, parks regulations, section number 9, and including it to add the Umatilla RV park in section number 9. What's the process for us to add that in there? Do we need to send it back out to, because if we're changing the ordinance, do we need to send it back out to the public for them to review it again, or does it restart this whole process? What happens?
Yeah, you do not need to go back out to the public. That's the purpose of the hearing here tonight, is to participate and have the second opportunity here. And so if you have a proposed updated change to what was already proposed, you can make that here in the hearing. And then later on the agenda, when you, under your new business section item, that could be your updated motion there.
Okay. Council, is there any further questions for David? Same with the removing the emergency clause.
Yeah, any proposed amendment to the amendment, you can certainly talk about that here, and you can move that on to the new item agenda under new business.
Any further questions? Bringing out anything down there?
No.
Okay.
Is it possible to remove the emergency verbiage on there, but still have it go into effect on our own time? Remove the emergency effect, but it can go into effect like
has to go through. I think it has to be. That's the reason why we're using the emergency clause in the way it is.
Yeah, we have to leave it.
Unless Ms.
Well-
McGee knows of some other legal way we can vote our own timeline in. For Dave.
I'll say, and Maureen, you can correct me, so you can make it effective anytime, either immediately or less than 30 days. The proposal was to go into effect immediately. If you wanted it to be 5 days or 14 days, the process we're doing here tonight would allow you to do that. You would still have to approve by unanimous decision of the counselors present tonight.
We could essentially.
Eh.
But they.
It was some of the type of work.
I'm not sure. Apologies if I'm jumping in on folks. The emergency clause language is the standard language. So if you want to have an emergency clause, you'll need to use the verbiage that is currently used for including that emergency clause. If you want the ordinance to go into effect anytime sooner than 30 days after adoption, it needs to have that emergency clause text in it. And modifying the text of the emergency clause would not be recommended, because then I would have a concern that it wouldn't, there's a chance that it wouldn't be viewed as a standard emergency clause. And I do not know what kind of risk that would raise. But if you want it to go into effect sooner than 30 days, it needs an emergency clause. If you decide that you do not want it to go into effect sooner than 30 days, then you can remove the emergency clause, and you can do that via your standard amendment process.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dennis, you want to add? Okay, Bruce, give me a thumbs up, moving on.
Yeah, I get, so do you want that change? 762 resident,
I think that, and I'd like the emergency clause, let's wait until section, or until we're in the next process. We gotta, let's do the public, they let there and speak, and then we'll deliberate. Thank you. Sergeant Dyke.
Oh, that's me.
Okay. Thank you very much. Ready to go today. Appreciate it, thank you very much. So this one says neutral, is this all for neutral, or this second hearing? It says neutral on top.
Yeah, I think the first two probably said,
Okay, so this one
because there's
says-
no opposition over here.
There isn't a second option, right? Okay.
What have we done?
All right, so real quick, Mary Cahill, Andrew Morris, Heidi Seif, and Nick Barron, I just want to confirm that you are all speaking in the positive. Give me a show of hands. No? You're talking in the negative?
Opposition.
They're all in opposition? Kip, are you in the neutral? Kip is in the neutral. All right.
Neutral. All right.
I'm gonna put an N next to your name with a circle so I don't forget it. Thanks, Kip. Okay, moving on. Safe. Thank you, Kip. I appreciate it. Okay. At this time, we're looking for any public testimony for the in support of this proposal. Seeing there is none, I'll move on. Is there any people who wish to speak in opposition of this proposal? At this time, we have Mary Cahill. Mary Cahill, please take the podium and make sure you state your name and address. Same rules as the previous public session, so.
Hi, I'm Mary Cahill, 180 Wilson. I just want to say that out of our city code, just want to point out, I'm sure you've all read it, and I appreciate that you being free being on council, because I wouldn't want to do your job for sure. But it is, does state in section 163 that the duties of the council, that's quite a list, but I'm just going to point out, the duties of the council shall include, but not limited to, the following. Interpretation of the needs and desires of the local community. So that's your job, to do what we want, what our needs are and what we want. And I know it seems like Duff said, we're going back to the transmission lines. There's been more than transmission lines, but yes, that's a big one. But whenever we want something, we have to go through the process. So, okay, the laws are already set up for our city, so we can't say yes or no to what the majority want, okay? But now, when when it's the city that wants something, it can be changed right away. That's not fair and that's not right. So I don't know if normally when something like this is changed, is it required that so many people that live within so many 100 feet of that golf course or park are notified? Like, are we following the procedure that we should be following? And again, all of us have said, I don't think anyone has said they don't want alcohol in these parks. We're fine with that. We just want the steps to be followed and we want to be heard. So if you're not seeing anyone in the community saying, yes, we're in favor of what you're gonna do tonight, your choice, then it's your job to listen to us and follow what we want, if it falls in the laws and rules of our city. Thank you.
I'm looking for Andrew Morris.
Andrew Morris, 402 Wallace Street. Going previous speaker, obviously no one has spoken tonight in support of the ordinance. Again, I think there's drafting errors. This is not a public health emergency. I think that would give more, for attorneys that are involved with golf course issues, that I think will get more ammunition to those attorneys by using this, because it is on the record from city council meetings that this is a business issue. It's a fixing mistake. So again, not a public health issue. You can look through Oregon statutes. There are varying emergency clauses that are available besides public health. So again, for drafting of this ordinance, no one here is saying don't have alcohol in the golf course, don't have cigars. And it's for drafting of the ordinance, and it's not an emergency. The dam's not gonna break if this ordinance doesn't pass. The city's not gonna flood. Again, alcohol was served at the golf course this past weekend.
Andrew, I'm sorry to interrupt. Can you speak more into the mic, please?
So the city is not following its own charter or own laws. It's still serving alcohol at the golf course when it said it wasn't going to. So it's a question for the council. Why is it still serving alcohol when at the last meeting it said it wasn't going to? If anyone can answer that question, that'd be great. Again, that goes back to trust issues. This ordinance should be redrafted to include all the issues that need to be included and be a fully drafted issue that citizens can review in a timely manner. It's not a public health issue. Thank you.
Okay, moving on now to Heidi Syke.
Buckle up here, I've got 2 phones and some handwritten notes, so it might get
Yeah, 5 minutes.
Okay, here we go. Heidi Syke, 120 Reason. So here's all the things I'm laying. I understand everything you're saying about like, this is why you feel pressure on having to make the emergency decision, because you're in this limbo zone. The reality is you've been in that limbo zone for the last 2 weeks. You could continue to do the right thing, which would be, don't take action tonight. Just keep rolling the dice. You had no problem rolling the dice the last 2 weeks. Keep selling alcohol, you have been. And in fairness, if we're really gonna play does the Umatilla City Council follow the rules of the state and ethics and charter to a T? We all kind of know, been playing a little fast and loose there, so I don't really think that now is the time to get hung up on following the rules for your end, as far as that goes. However, my question is fixing this tonight, really with this one ordinance that will change the rules, really gonna fix all your problems? Because in community service and, medium density residential. Alcohol sales are neither permitted outright nor with a conditional use. So for you to actually follow all your own rules, truly, you have to rezone this. Now, what happens if you rezone it? You would have to provide notice to all of the property owners within a certain distance of this space. I want to figure out here. It's allergy season, and I just can't. So with that in mind, you're gonna fix this ordinance. You're still gonna be breaking your zoning law. And the people that within a certain amount of feet be covered by the zoning information would suddenly receive notice. Because right now, if you look around, who do you have? Best thing that ever happened about those transmission lines is you united our Rio Senda and Riverview neighbors like you can't believe. We meet, we text pretty much daily. We've got each other's backs because we were all really well wronged by all. And when that decision was made, Councilor Tenai said, I did read every word of this many times. But then when you actually go back and you look at the minutes of the Planning Commission and you look at what was there, there's so many errors in that file that the minutes didn't even say what the motion was. They didn't say who made it. They didn't say who voted. And the recordings didn't capture it either. So you guys have been making decisions not off of actual information from citizens. You just been doing what staff says every time. And it's hurtful because we're not crazy. We're not out here raising red flags over nothing. But what we are doing is just asking you to tune in a little bit more. And in this case, notifying people with a letter within a certain amount of feet, probably have a lot more people here. Because right now, the only reason we're all here is a few of us attended this meeting a couple weeks ago, and we're like, holy cow. And we're here fighting for the people around the park because nobody fought for us. But by God, we're gonna fight for them. So here we are. And it's sad because it shouldn't be like this. So you already have this situation. Just keep doing it for a little bit. Do the right process. To have your Parks and Rec committee review the rules. Have the public notice that actually goes out to all those landowners. Give them a chance to tell you what they actually want. And maybe act in their best interest. That's all. I know you can do it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
At this time, is there any audience that would like to speak in opposition at this time? We're moving on to neutral. Okay, at this time, we're moving on to neutral. Is there any member of the audience who wishes to speak in neutral testimony on this proposal? Right now, on the list, we have Kip Karen.
And spoke with, Kip Barron, 457 Stevens Avenue.
Thanks, Matt.
I haven't, spoke in a neutral, mind frame before, and so this is a new experience. Like that. Anyway, council person Thunderbird and Dufflaw and councilperson Katie McMillan and Dennis McMillan and Hunting, appreciate your time and effort that you've been doing up there on the right. But my one thought that a takeaway as I've been hearing all the words spoken tonight is whether it be city staff, whether it be attorney, or any council person here, is there a dollar amount or a reputation amount that you can put on public trust? That's my key takeaway from here. Public trust going forward is gonna assist your job in doing what you need to do for the city, whether it be the city staff. What I hear reading from tonight. Public trust would be the best interest to have on your side. I don't think it's going to get any easier if you don't have it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This time, is there any questions from council or staff? On control test. Oh, okay. No, you're fine. Yeah, we're going to move on to the next section, which we're going to council questions. And deliberations. Go ahead.
Why?
No, you're good. We said.
Okay, I just wanted to know, so, I've been hearing we need to go about it the correct way, whether it's an emergency, not an emergency. Given that, say if there was another business that was out of business, or like the city is right now, would they have the opportunity to come through as an emergency and rectify it immediately? Or is that, they have to wait 30 days? They have the same opportunity as the city does.
We'd have to take a look at if it's allowed in their specific zone. So if it's a business area for the sale or consumption of alcohol, and we'd have to look at the original application of when they submitted that for business. That so if it falls underneath the allowed uses of that business. So for example, if somebody turns in a business that says it's going to be a daycare, and then they turn in a permit that says they're going to sell alcohol, you can't do that. It has to be in alliance with the actual application that was submitted at the time. So it would take time to review, and if the request matched the original business application and matched the zoning, then it's an administrative process to go through for OLCC. They have to fill out an OLCC license and permitting and run through that process.
They already have the licensing, I'm just kind of like, they already have the licensing, but there's just something else that's out of place. Do they have the opportunity to rectify it that quickly?
Here's one. We give the golf course a variance for 30 days while we fix this. Because we've given variances to other things, other situations.
I guess Maureen has a comment, and then I can talk about the variance if it's needed.
Yeah, I was not going to speak to the variance issue. I mean, I only want to make a apples to apples comparison in order to ask the question that was asked. But if, for example, there were a business that came to if there were a business that came to the city council identifying that there was a concern that could be affixed by ordinance adoption, and it was within the city council's purview to say, we think that this is something that needs to be fixed quickly, they could follow their standard, or if what the business needed was a change in ordinances, then you would have the same procedures that you do here. But if your question is broader outside of that context, then that requires different analysis. But any ordinance change can be done with an emergency clause on.
So my question is, would the business itself have to demonstrate the emergency clause? Or can we just pass it without demonstration?
Whether or not the city council wants to use an emergency clause on a bill to adopt an ordinance and its legislative function is within the purview of the legislature, right? Or it's within the purview of the city council acting within its legislative function. So if as a city council, if the business were able to successfully make the argument to the city that this was something that needed to be changed quickly, and the city council agreed and felt that it needed to be changed quickly enough that whatever ordinance change was necessary should go into effect earlier than 30 days after adoption, you could use an emergency clause.
Thank you.
If I could add on that as well. So I appreciate the apple to apples comment, because you're mixing a little bit the legislative process versus the quasi judicial process. So again, we're here in a legislative capacity talking about updating an ordinance. For the business there, you're talking about perhaps a planning application. It's gonna be a type 1, type 2, type 3, depending on what it's looking at. And there's certain levels there where you cross thresholds where it's either processed administratively, or it's processed through the planning commission, or it's processed all the way through the city council or beyond. So in this case, that's why I went back and mentioned that we'd have to look and see what was the original planning application, what's the zoning that's there. We could look at that, depending on where that's at. We approve OLCC license applications administratively all the time. So we take those through, we fill out, either recommend, or we have no comment, or we say deny when they apply for OLCC. And when we say deny, we have to state the reason why we're saying deny on OLCC when they're applying to the state.
So I've got a question for you. So if the claims are correct, that our zoning is incorrect, and we approved our own liquor license, what does that mean?
Yeah, I don't agree that the zoning's incorrect. The zoning did not change. It was a community service zone. Community service zones are allowed under both on public or private lands. And that community service zone is what all of our facilities are. They operate as public facilities or they operate as public parks. And then we have these rules specific in the park. And so we were able to operate that way.
Question on the rule says that we can't sell or leave alcohol within that zone. Would we have to pass a different zone?
It doesn't, it's an golf course, sold alcohol there for, well, they sold alcohol.
Was it previously zoned as a business when it was the golf course?
So the way, again, so Umatilla is unique because it has this CS, this community service subzone that exists that can be applied with any zone in the city. So it can be applied in single family, it can be multifamily, it can be applied to commercial or downtown commercial or industrial zones, so long as it meets that CS designation. You can apply that in any zone that's along with that. CS designation allows through conditional use permit to be able to issue alcohol sales. And so this facility, since its inception, was always under a community service zone and was allowed to sell it. When we took over, that did not change.
It said in our ordinance that we're legally allowed to sell it in a community service zone.
The community service, under the community service zone, it falls underneath what our parks ordinance have to say here. And that's what we're trying to fix here tonight, is to get these park code in alignment. Yep.
Okay, so at this time, we're looking to, I want to correct two different issues with the 762, section 762, subsection A, subsection 9, and add the addition of including the consumption of any alcoholic beverage except at the Big River Golf Course in compliance with the course rules and the Umatilla River Park, the Umatilla RV Park as allowed under subsection 761D of this chapter. If you would like, I don't know, because that's the other question too, if someone's on a boat and they drink alcohol while their boat is moored, it would officially be out of compliance with our code.
Right.
So yeah, throw the marina. It's a good idea. Lucy, if you have any questions on that, or do you think that's sufficient if we add the marina in the park, and RV park? Is that good? Okay. Brina, anything you'd like to add? Darren, anything you'd like to add? I think my concern, I'm gonna say this clearly, stated on the record, I do firmly believe that this is a misuse of the term emergency, this ordinance being necessary for the immediate preservation of public health, safety, and welfare. The emergency is declared. I firmly disagree with that stance. I think that is a misuse and under false pretenses utilized. I do not agree with that, but council, do you have any questions on that? I think it should be removed.
I think the language is weird, but what Nancy put up there did clarify quite a bit for me. I mean, it does become kind of a health and safety issue at that point. Talking about alcohol consumption, where
And also the attorney advises.
Yeah.
That's standard practice, so if it's a fee.
I want to clarify, she didn't say this is a standard practice, she just said that this is standardly allowable. This is the standard language. So this isn't, we gotta be careful about that. Because this is, Ms. McGee's done a phenomenal job this evening. I don't want to say that my concern is that she's lawyered me this gray enough to where we have the chance to potentially hang ourselves?
That wasn't my interpretation.
Okay, so at this time, council, would you like to keep that in or not? Yes. You guys have one for yes. Anyone else? The emergency.
Well, we gotta keep the original clause in order to do what we do.
No, we could remove it and we take 30 days and have a second meeting.
I mean, we get this resolved. Because I do think there is some merit to the health clause after, like I said, after Nancy brought that to my attention. I just didn't think it was in that aspect, and so I do think there's merit to it.
Bruce? Would you like to keep it or not?
We pass it as a totality, I mean, it's either passed or not.
Yeah, I think, in the end, I think we have, we said it, it's a poor situation that, has existed in history. The fix is not gonna be anything that makes people, real happy. And the one thing I have heard tonight that I'm very interested in is, this body taking it upon itself to spend more time looking at, our rules on a regular basis.
Well, just everything in general. I just think that we need to.
So I have a follow-up question here. What is the council legality? We, as a council, vote on this. And someone decides to sue the city saying this is a misuse of the term emergency, and they sue us for enacting this ordinance. What is the council's individual life? As a councilor, not as a council. Could they sue us individually? For our decisions made here today?
I'll let Maureen answer that.
I would have to consider the answer. To be honest, Mayor Sipe, I would have to consider the answer to that question and get back to you. But I will just say that the likelihood of a lawsuit based on the terminology of the emergency clause, in my estimation, is incredibly low.
I'll be honest with you, with the faces in this room, I'm gonna firmly disagree with you. But that being said, council, you guys would like to keep it in there, that's fine. All right, I would firmly disagree with it, but if that is your decision,
I don't even like it saying it's very low.
yeah.
I don't like the sound.
And my question too is like, it's signed, if the council approves this, it says my name on it, so I have to sign this. My concern is that I have zero confidence. This was not passed under false pretenses as an individual. I don't know if I can legally sign this. I feel like this is a lie. What legality do I have to refuse to sign this?
Given this direction, now we individually have to decide whether or not we want to support it or not.
Okay, so at this time, we're looking for a motion. There's no further testimony this time.
We have to come out of public hearing.
We are, that's what we're gonna do. Yep. I will need a motion to close the public hearing and enter back into our regular meeting at this time.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to close the public hearing and reconvene into the regular.
Thank you. Can I get a second to motion, please?
I'll second
All in favor? Sorry, can I get a roll call vote?
Counselor Funderburk. Counselor Dufflaw. Counselor Katie McMillan. Counselor Dennis McMillan. Counselor McLean.
Thank you guys. However, we are now back in our regular session. I gotta find my agenda, just a moment, please. Okay, moving on now to our first new business item, 9.1, We had to update the agenda, and we have Ashley Wheeler. Accept the resignation. Can I second the motion, please? All in favor, oh, sorry, can we get a roll call?
Give me a second, sorry. Try to do my best impression of Nancy.
You did a great job, sorry. for the-
Thank you. Counselor Funderburk.
Aye.
Counselor Duffalo. Counselor Katie McMillan.
Aye.
Counselor Dennis McMillan. Counselor McLean.
Yes, how will we accept the resignation and positions now open on this council? It is with a heavy heart. And me and Dave will put a letter and might say that it was sad to hear, but definitely look forward. Hopefully she has a new adventure in Idaho. We look forward to hearing from her and wish her nothing but the best. And we want to thank her for her service. Moving on now to 9.2.
Mayor, I'm sorry, on 9.1, we still need to declare a vacancy. And then staff needs direction as to the advertisement of that vacancy. So we can be advertised and brought back to you 2 weeks from now, 4 weeks from now, whatever your timeline would be. We need that direction so that we can put that information out. And then furthermore, we'd like to be able to put in that advertisement sort of your procedure of those interviews. So they all need to be held in open session. And so there's just so that we can help them prepare for when that might be. The question from staff is would your procedure be to sort of have them as a panel, ask one question, they all answer it, ask the next question to the next person down the line, answer and sort of move back, and then sort of continue to do that until you have however many questions you feel is appropriate. And then the second would be, otherwise you can interview one at a time, everyone also an open session, and you can sort of do that a little bit more ad hoc if you'd like. We generally advise to ask the same question to every candidate at the same time and move down that way, but you certainly don't have to do that. And then from there, after you interview each of the potential candidates, we'll need to know if your decision, if you would prefer your decision be made same evening, or if you would like time, to make that decision later on. So we need just a little bit more discussion on direction on that.
Council seat number 4. You know, motion to declare the vacancy. Is that correct?
That's right.
Mayor, I make a motion.
Give me a second. For that last motion, what do I do with it?
It's okay. The first one was to accept the resignation. That motion stands. So now we're actually for it to declare it vacant. And then we'll need to advertise.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion.
Declare vacancy for seat number 4.
For seat number.
I get second to the motion, please.
I'll say, oh.
Bruce got this one. Bruce seconds. Can we get a roll call vote?
Yes. Counselor Funderburk.
Aye.
Counselor Duffalo. Counselor Katie McMillan.
Aye.
Counselor Dennis McMillan. Counselor McLean.
Okay, now for discussion of how we're doing this. I didn't do a panel on one night. We do it after our regular session meeting, kind of like an executive session where it tags on to the end to see if they can last out an evening with us.
Well, I think we did it before, because we did it before, the same situation I was in, and then I was sworn in and had to be a part of the council meeting that night.
Yeah, well, we'll do it separately. We'll do it one day. You'll get to watch the show. All right. So I think we do it at the end of the meeting. And we do it as a panel on the next, let's do at the third Tuesday of June. So we have a regular, second meeting of June, we do it on a regular session, the end of the meeting, second session in June. And we just,
Like Dennis and I will be.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, wait.
wait a second, hold on, you're gonna be God, we have a whole crisis now.
You can do it.
Well, it's fine, we can, that's only 2 weeks of notice, so I can put enough candidates in 2 weeks. Kind of like to give them at least 4, we can just call a special. We gotta give them proper notices, when are you guys done with your vacation?
What about the week before?
Yeah, I'm gone. That's fine. What are we gonna do? Can we dare?
What about like the end of the first week?
You wanna do the first meeting of July?
Yeah, first meeting.
What's the first meeting of July? Is that?
That's the 4th of July.
No, it's the first.
Oh.
No one's gonna be in town.
Let's,
Two.
2 weeks, you don't want to do it 2 weeks?
I don't think so. Do you want to do it 2
I think
weeks?
we need more time.
I think we need more time.
People need time.
Do we would have still a quorum if Katie and Dennis weren't here.
True.
We were here.
I agree.
17th, did we talk about 17th?
That's what we're.
They're still gone.
Oh, you're gone.
Yeah, that was what we were just talking about.
You guys didn't put your slips in.
Yeah, right. You get a submit a leaf sheet. I'm the 9th and the 10th.
You're
So
not.
what do we do?
Yeah. We can do the 12th.
That'd be-
Well, how long can we leave a vacancy open?
Yeah, good question.
There's no rules as to how long you can keep it open, just on how to fill it. So you can take as much time as you need.
The next council meeting should be here.
Okay, so let's go back to, is that July? Then we're looking at, okay, that's the July. Let's do the 14th. No, don't, it would be the 22nd would be, yeah, let's do the 15th, July 15th. At the end of our regular session programming.
Just a reminder for council that night, we were bringing, that'll be your, so July 1st is gonna be your, presentations by Jensen Strategies and Eco Northwest on survey and other data on Rock the Locks. And your decision for Rock the Locks future events will be that evening on July 15th. So we wanted to give ourselves lots of time for that.
See if we got some. So let's go ahead and do, what about August? How's August look, everybody? What about August? First meeting in August? David is fun plan on the first meeting in August.
I mean, it's my daughter's birthday, but I'll be here.
Let's do the second meeting in August.
Was,
Second meeting?
29th?
I'm sorry, I heard the July 1st earlier. Was there, that date didn't work for folks?
I think we're all on it.
Okay.
Let's do call.
What was it? What?
July 1st.
Yeah, that's. I'll be here.
I'll be here.
Oh, they're going to be here? I'll
Is
be
that
here.
Tuesday the 1st?
Tuesday the 1st.
It is.
I can make the slide, I can make it. Let's do it first. First it is.
Okay.
Okay, so our motion now is that we're gonna do it on July 1st. And we're gonna do it at the end of the meeting.
And we'll have, and in the past, Mr. Mayor, what we've done is add the candidates in front of us, we ask them all the same questions.
So we just do a panel. Perfect, then we'll do a panel. So that's it.
Is there any a decision that night or to?
Decision that. And we do decision that night. You go ahead.
I think we just do it that night.
Yep.
Wait.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Mike,
It will be a long night.
Long moves.
Can we get pizza?
sure. I mean, we can always get pizza.
So our direction would be to solicit candidates, being ready for them to participate in a panel, question and answering discussion at the end of the planned council meeting.
Yeah, so the last part of your statement is the question. Do you do it at the beginning of your meeting so that person is sworn in that same night and participates in discussion, deliberation, and debate of the council, or do you do it at the end? Okay,
And the other question is, can we make a motion to maybe start at 6 o'clock as opposed to 7?
you can make whatever you'd like, yeah. So if you know ahead of time that you want to give yourself potentially 4 hours or move it earlier, you can, that will give us plenty of time to get that noticed for that July 1st date. If you'd like, you can have an earlier start time. We could provide that notice.
Apologize with Frank.
I have an extra pen, Mayor, if you'd like.
Put 80%. Okay.
And then my follow-up question is, it would be,
Yes.
We gotta vote on it, yes.
Bruce, do you have the motion in your head?
Before, if I could ask one more point of clarification, it would be helpful if you could come up with 2 counselors for a temporary subcommittee to help us develop those questions so they're not coming directly from staff.
Okay, subcommittee, Bruce, who do you want to go with subcommittee? Who you got?
You're the mayor.
I know you're making the motion, so I'm curious, who you got?
You're the mayor. Yeah, I should have finished the direction. To have the panel discussion at the end of the city council meeting and to vote on a plan following that discussion.
Yes.
Yeah, I would recommend if you're gonna start earlier to have a time certain on your agenda to get to that so that you have, you give yourself time. So we can have your regular meeting start at 6. You can go through items. I don't know what that agenda looks like yet for the first. That's kind of out a little bit. But if you had a time certain, that way friends, family, relatives, whoever might want to participate, that we would know when that item starts specifically.
Makes perfect sense. Do you think it's reasonable to say that, you know, you'd have a mayor would have a handful on the, July 1st agenda early enough, certain in for that?
Are you here all the next 6 weeks, Mayor?
Yeah.
I'm sure we can get together, and I would recommend that we work with city recorder on that as well. She's helped with other vacancies and this stuff in the past as well. But so we have mayor, I would really, if possible, if we could have somebody else as well.
I'll do it. Me and you. Subcommittee, yeah, so you and Bruce can one. Yeah, we can, I think we do 3. We can do 3. We need Bruce and.
You can have up to 3.
Great idea.
You smell better than I do.
This time, we got Green and Bruce and Darren, I'll throw the names in the hat.
Okay.
Just make it a party, we'll make it 4, I'll do myself, just do that 4.
Great.
So if we do 4 of you, and we're gonna meet, we have to notice that as a public meeting.
So the question committee would be Darren, the mayor, and myself.
Yes.
We need a motion and we can,
Got this one?
we can,
For the whole shoot match?
Oh, okay.
Okay, so
I'm trying to take notes here, Bruce. We got this.
take a motion that, on the July 1st meeting at time certain, we would have a question panel for any applicants for the open position. Those questions would be submitted beforehand by a 3-person panel, Darren Dufflow, the mayor, and myself. The time certain for the end of the meeting with the intent of the council voting on appointing the candidate. And the meeting starts.
All right.
I think you got it all. Did Dave get it all? Dave, did you get it all?
I do.
Second motion.
Second that.
Okay, thank you very much. Can we get a roll call?
Counselor Funderburk.
Aye.
Counselor Dufflaw. Counselor Katie McMillan. Counselor Dennis McMillan. Counselor McLean.
You guys have it. Dave, can you read it back to us one more time to make sure we got it all?
Mine's shorthand notes. I'll let the recording read it back if we wanted to do that.
All right, now on to 9.2. Dave, does that conclude our discussion on that?
Thank you.
Okay, so now to 9.2, the adoption of ordinance. No, 9.2.
Okay.
9.2, we're going down 1. We're good. Thanks, okay. Ordinance number 875. Question from council. I've given my 2 cents on this, make edits, you guys wanna keep in the emergency. I think it's a bad idea to keep the emergency in there. It opens up to potential legal jeopardy. And I don't think that's a wise decision. However. Answer the council.
We're comfortable with the information we received from our attorney.
Okay,
And the information that's in front of us, so.
thank you. All right, at this time, we'll look for a motion. Actually, real quick, redact that. Is there any further questions or deliberations from anyone on the council?
Anybody else, any questions?
I don't know, I just feel nervous from what she said.
That's what I am. That's why I brought it up. I am severely nervous that there is a chance that we could be.
But didn't you say we have to have like 100%?
Yes. Unanimous. Yeah, a little bit. I feel like. I have a hard time signing this if I don't believe that we have provided enough evidence, we haven't falsified the fact that this is an emergency. If I refuse to sign it, what happens?
I can defer to Maureen as well, but, my understanding, Mayor, your signature on there is, on any adopted resolution or ordinance is, an acknowledgement that this was the bona fide vote of the council. And so it includes the ayes and the nays. It does not necessarily, say that you agree with it or disagree with it, just that that was the bona fide action of the council.
Any further questions by this council? Anything else you want to ask?
You want to ask our attorney more questions? You do Google search? Check.
I'm sure we're going to talk about this.
Well, now's the time to talk.
Can we go to the next item or do we have to continue?
I'm just stating order. Once we edit the agenda, we gotta stay the course. That's why we're here.
What was the number 1?
I can make you last. I can put you last, Craig, but I can tell you that I don't think it's gonna make the fear go any less away. Because my concerns is that if we vote yes on this, we open ourselves up for individual litigation against us.
Kind of what the job is, though. Like, we try to make the best decision we possibly make and with the information we have. And really, that's at the end of the day what we're doing.
Agreed, but it doesn't have to. We have a decision right now in front of us. Right now,
Okay, so what happens if I do a no vote? I know, but then what happens next?
Go back to the process.
We go back to the original process, we do something emergency clause.
If that's what you feel.
But is that like 30 more days? Like what, I just need to know.
Maybe 30 more days, plus another announcements and other first reading. But then make the edits, do another first reading. Second reading, make the edits.
I have to look and see if I believe that's correct. I'd have to double check. If an ordinance doesn't pass, there is a time between when you can bring it back to council. I need to consult the charter to look that up.
What you consult. Things work on. What was the executive session? Is it a rapid one? Or is it gonna be a long executive?
It'll
Medium?
Okay.
I was asking about the alcohol.
Yeah,
that was served.
Okay.
I was explaining.
Clarifying something.
Okay. So your point of clarification was what alcohol was served,
Yes.
and then Barbara and Darren, what was your response back?
And my response was, it was normal operations this weekend.
Thanks.
And I remember that was talked about.
Yeah.
You still have Nancy's comment.
Can you see it or would you like it read?
I guess this is a question for Nancy. Nancy, where did you get this from? Did you just type this up and make it yourself, or did you like run this past OEGC? Like, where did you get this from? If she's awake.
I am awake. It's hard to hear you, Mayor Saib. Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, my question is, where did you get this, you wrote this in the chat, the ordinance demonstrates, where did you get that from? Did you write that yourself, or did you have that from legal counsel? Where did you get that from?
That was trying to answer the question that that you had inquired about the using the emergency clause information. You heard from Maureen that it's standard language and it sounded to me like you needed more information. So I was making sure that we covered all our bases on why it was that the emergency clause was being used.
Thank you. That's something.
I mean, is even the golf cart thing, like people with handicaps and disabilities, you know.
That would make sense. The question is, distribution of how.
Well, we can establish areas like that and guidelines for it.
I don't know.
And it seems like, it seems like it's justified. I mean, we're voting on this with our best intent, with our, is it? They just want to be done. We gotta make the best judgment, right? We gotta make.
I know we gotta make the best judgment. But in the eyes of the court, if we make a call, and if someone in this room decides to sue us, or anyone else in this room decides to sue us, we are liable. Bringing a ordinance that's potentially illegal because we did not use an emergency clause.
Well, I don't know, I don't see it different, but I see that we are using.
It comes down to interpretation.
Yeah, it's just about based on.
That's a lot of, to me, and I don't, and as I said earlier, I don't interpret.
Not only, and I appreciate you here on the side of caution, I get what you're saying.
No, I get it.
Absolutely.
I get that, and I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just trying to say, I don't think that what Nancy's saying, I agree with what she's saying. I have no disagreement with it, but I would like to see it in writing from a case law standpoint. Where do we stand? What actually constitutes an emergency clause used in this way, other than constantly saying on repeat, well, it's the standard. Cool. The standard toilet paper is single ply. Everyone, I don't know, everyone prefers two ply, you know, what, you know, if we ever know to this way.
I think I'm in agreement with you, Kaden, if I could see like a case law or something where this is, yeah.
Aaron is used.
I just don't know what we need other than an attorney who's obviously studied for many, many years.
But she's not saying we can't, she's saying we can use it because it's the standard. She's not saying we should use it in this situation.
No, but I'm like, I don't know, I just.
Can we get more clarification from our counsel?
If I may.
Yes.
Thank you. So I am frankly not aware of case law that exists that specifically parses the language of the emergency clause from the perspective of the question of whether or not the emergency clause was used in a situation that is sufficiently considered a commitment to the public health, safety, and welfare. What I am aware of is challenges to emergency clauses from the standpoint of whether or not they were used appropriately on bills or ordinances relating to taxes, because there are both constitutional provisions in Oregon and there are also provisions of your own city charter that do place restrictions on the use of emergency clause in the context of a tax bill, which is not what you have here. There were some questions raised earlier today around how commonly emergency clauses are used on ordinance passage in the city government context. I don't have a direct window into that particularly right now. Although what I do have a window into, to the extent that it just may be valuable for you to be thinking about in this conversation, is the use of emergency clauses in the legislative context in Oregon. Emergency clauses are used in Oregon in the legislative context very, very, very frequently, and not challenged from the perspective that you are addressing here today. Again, because the use of an emergency clause is allowed under the Oregon Constitution, except, like I said, in some situations when we're talking about tax policy, and is used specifically for the purpose to provide for a different effective date for the legislation that is being passed than the standard effective date, when in the judgment of the legislative body, having a different effective date is useful. Now, in this circumstance, it sounds like a lot of what you are really weighing is what is the relative risk between including the emergency clause and facing a challenge based on that, and not including an emergency clause and facing the risk related to having your existing ordinances in place for another 30 days. So that's really that's really the relative risk that you're balancing. And realistically, I will leave it to your discretion to decide which risk for the city you believe is greater. The emergency clause was included based on an understanding from the previous city council meeting that there was a strong interest in reducing the risk related to having the ordinances as they currently stay in place, now that you know that some updates are necessary to align with historic practice. So I just want to kind of hopefully frame that up a little bit better. And then just also point out that when we're talking about approval today after 2 readings, that's a completely separate point from whether or not you include the emergency clause. And I'm happy to get into more details there if our questioning kind of gets back to that point.
Thank you. Corinne, does that help you at all? Dave, do you have an answer for Corinne on that charter situation?
From just my review and research here, I don't see anything in either the charter, the code, or in your council rules that have any sort of restriction on bringing it back at another time. I would say that if you're going to make a motion here tonight, and if that motion does fail, I would you'd have to make another motion to direct staff to bring that back. It's from a staff perspective, the decision has been made and we're moving on. So you'd have to give us further clarification from that.
Time council, we're looking. Corinne, are you ready? Okay, this time council looking for a motion.
If I can on that call, so your ordinance does require, your charter does require, well, any substantive amendment to a proposed ordinance must be read aloud. And so you did make a proposal on the substantive change, meaning adding it at another facility. So I want to make sure that we're clear as to what that proposal is, so that we can make sure that we read that aloud. So after you make your motion, before you call vote, we'll read it by title only again, and we'll include the amended language as well before you call for a vote. If that's the motion to add that, yeah, we need to make sure that we have that in the motion.
So we have to make sure we make the amendment subsection.
7.6.2A9.
7.6.2 subsection A, subsection 9, be added to include the Umatilla RV park, and marina. Okay, this time, council, we're looking for a motion to add that language on subsection A, sorry, 7.6.2, subsection A, subsection 9 in reading. Would you pass?
Just to add that in, right?
Or remove the words. Listening for any motion you want to find.
The whole thing?
No.
Just adding the.
Yeah, it's your decision. You can make it however you want.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion, we amend this to, in section 7.6.2 A9, hope that's acceptable. We include in the exempted parks with the RV park and the marina.
Okay. Dave, does that suffice as a?
It does not. I'll need a clarification. Let me write it and you tell me if I have that right. Give me just a moment. Okay. So it'll be similar language to what you have in subsection 10. So number 9 would read, if this is agreed upon by the council, that consumption of any alcoholic beverage except at Big River Golf Course or Umatilla RV Park in compliance with their respective park rules as allowed under subsection 7.6.1 D of this chapter. Sorry, at the marina and RV park. Thank you.
And David, I think you also need to make sure there's still an or. It would be or as allowed under subsection 7.1. Yep.
Thank you. Let me reread that. Consumption of any alcoholic beverage except at Big River Golf Course or Umatilla Marina or RV Park with their respective park rules or as allowed under subsection 7.6.1 D of this chapter.
That the motion? Okay. Mickey, you have a comment?
I just wanted to make sure that the phrase said in compliance with. So except at Big River Golf Course, Umatilla Marina, or Umatilla RV Park in compliance with their respective park rules or as allowed under subsection 7.6.1 D.
Dennis, can you start your motion again? With that in there. Looking for a motion.
Include that?
Yep.
Oh, dear God. Anyway,
I know.
oh shoot, I better write this down so I don't mess
Well,
up.
Dave has it written down.
Oh, Dave has it written down.
Dave, can you hand me your papers of all the way short? Just.
It's shorthand, but I can I can get it for you as well. Yeah. Here, let me give you a non-shorthand. Yeah. Melissa will write it down. Yes, her penmanship's way better than mine anyway.
Thank you. You want Scott to do this?
That would be a grave decision.
Be a short one.
Yep. We'll wait for this motion and we'll set our hours. Yeah. Thanks, we appreciate you for being here. All right,
Oh, that is good, Ian.
okay. Dennis, do you have a motion for us?
Mr. Mayor, I have a motion, that would be. That, well, that's, should be to add to 7.62, section A, subsection 9, that's acceptable. The consumption of any alcoholic beverage except at Big River Golf Course, Umatilla Marina, and RV Park in compliance with their respective park rules or as allowed under subsection 761D of this chapter. Ms. McGee, is that correct? And the adoption.
Yes.
Of this ordinance, 875.
Okay, perfect. All right, they can get a second, a motion, please. Thank you for a second. We get a roll call vote. Or you need to go the way around, you're good. Okay, we'll do it.
Counselor Funderburk,
Nay.
Counselor Duffel, Counselor Katie McMillan,
I guess nay.
Counselor Dennis McMillan, Counselor McLean.
Thanks.
Give me a second to read.
Okay, at this time, council, real quick, while he's sitting doing that, we're hearing a motion to extend our meeting. We have to have a firm timeline, or we say at the completion of this meeting. Great.
However it's made, yeah.
Let's just say at the completion of the agenda, the meeting will.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we extend the meeting to conclude the end of this meeting.
Thank you. Can we get a roll call vote?
Counselor Funderburk.
Yeah.
Hi.
Counselor Duffel, Counselor Katie McMillan, Counselor Dennis McMillan, Counselor McLean.
Yeah, how does it work? Can you excuse? There you go.
Yeah, we'll just mention it in the minutes that after this item, he was excused for the remainder of the meeting.
Perfect. Thank you, sir. Yep, thank you very much. Appreciate your service. Have a great night. Okay, so now city staff's gonna need some type of, well, should we move that on to later or we have to do it now?
We should do it now.
It's entirely up to you.
That fails. We need to give description and direction for staff, what we want to do moving forward.
I think we do it as soon as possible, sir. We get it out and we start, do our proper notification.
For a full 30-day process or another emergency?
Well, I want to be clear, the 30-day process is just the effective date of an ordinance when it's passed. So we just have to make sure that we have notice of the hearing at least 1 week prior to the meeting. And I want to be clear too, as well. Again, we're talking about an ordinance and a legislative process, not a quasi judicial process. This is not a land use decision. It's a legislative decision. So there will not be mailings or notifications that go out to neighbors or anything like that. That's not part of the legislative process.
I just think we need to do it as soon as we can.
Okay. So our next available meeting, so that would give us 2 weeks to get out the information to public.
Are you okay with that? Everybody okay with
I think we're good with that. So we're gonna do it as a normal,
Yes.
we're moving it out of emergency, looking at a normal process, second go. Okay.
Well, give me just a moment on the weekly post. Since their cutoff date is gonna be what, Friday? It's gonna post on the 28th. It's not gonna get us there on the 3rd, right?
Correct. Yeah, would have had open notice already. Unless
Okay.
we can follow the.
Yeah, so
post in 3 locations.
so because
That's a
our,
question-
say that again?
A question for.
Yeah.
Can we post
So because our paper of record is a weekly, not a daily anymore, they only have a post on, legal post on Wednesdays. And so, their cutoff is, I believe it's either tomorrow or Thursday, this Thursday. which means it would not publish until the 28th, which is not 1 week before your next meeting on the 3rd. So we could do the same process that we did here again, where we post at least 3 public places throughout the city in order to do that. We can still post and it'll hit on the 28th. Just recognize that that's not going to hit the 7-day legal requirement. It's going to be this 3 public location in order to do that.
And so we did follow that process, right?
We did that this time, yeah.
We got to do that again. Without the emergency. Can we still do that without the emergency clause? Or is that? That's part of the.
Yeah, I suppose that's the direction of council here, how you want us to bring that proposal to you. So for all ordinances require at least 7-day notice to the public prior to it coming out. So for us, that's going to be, for the newspaper, that would be the 28th. So we'd have to do that 3 business location no matter what, if you want it on the 3rd.
If you want it on the 3rd. So we have to do the 3 locations. So Bruce, we got it on the 3rd. We got it on 3 locations. Without the emergency procedure. Any other questions from council? Currently stands.
And that'll give us, that's coverage, we're good with that.
That will certainly comply with your charter and notification requirements. It does that. And then on the clause in the ordinance, again, that emergency clause there is on the enactment date for if you want to go less than 30 days, not the other type of emergency that was talked
The
about.
thing that's gonna change is, it's gonna take 30 days from that date to go into effect. Unless we do an emergency, which is something we need to do right now.
So I wanted to add, in your adopted policies and procedures on effective dates, it adds an additional language for emergency ordinance clause where it includes a provision that the ordinance is necessary for immediate preservation of the public peace, property, health, and safety. So if you feel that we didn't add public peace as part of that, if you felt that this is public peace, we could add that element.
Process procedures, that's not chart or in the standard boilerplate for Oregon state law, correct, for emergency procedures? That's in our policies and procedures, not in our charter.
Your charter doesn't have any boilerplate language whatsoever, so you get to determine what that language is. So the city council, as home rule, has this legislative authority, and so this body can determine if it was the emergency. I believe that's what our attorney's been saying throughout the night tonight. And so if how you declare that to be less than 30 days is entirely up to this council. It sounds like tonight from the discussions, there was a lot of concern with how that was declared. And so I'm simply posing the question if we need to update that or not.
I think without the emergency clause, to be safe and clear. Well, 30 days.
Be a 3rd reading.
Yeah, we just need to get it.
Stays the exact same. Yes, we're still on our policies. Of course. Yeah, Councilmember Bob is correct. We've been doing it for 5 to 10 years, so I'm sure. No, okay, so this time, council, we're looking for a motion.
I'll make a motion that we, we're gonna bring this ordinance back to us. It's gonna be what, June 3rd?
Yep.
Correct.
Yeah, make sure that it's posted within the guidelines of the notification piece. Is that correct? That's what we want to do.
Is that sufficient for your motion, or do we need more?
No, that's good. That's good direction.
That's direction to staff. We get a second motion.
I'll second that.
Thank you. We get a roll call vote post.
Counselor Funderburk.
Aye.
Counselor Dufflaw. Counselor Katie McMillan. Counselor McLean.
You guys have.
So with, pages of record, changing to, you know, monthly, weekly, whatever, is there any relief from posting in the old fashioned? So the legislature has not caught up with the realities of the world we're living in today, correct?
I would agree with that statement, yes.
And unfortunately, just kind of living in rural Oregon, that's all we got.
So
You realize it's like,
right?
Harley had some, just like.
So unfortunately.
So what staff typically does, like when you adopted 874, when you did your first reading at that meeting, even at the time that we published for that first meeting, we published for the second at the exact same time. We sent both. You always have the ability to amend your agenda to remove an item off the agenda, but adding to it has notification requirements. So you can always make those removal changes. And so if for whatever reason you change that an item's not ready, it's not a problem that we noticed that and that you removed it. That's okay. We can do that. But what you can't do is add something without that proper notice.
This notification outside of depending paper is kind of.
Well, that's, I think we use the notification board, I mean, at the, oh my gosh, I can't even, at Harvest Foods and the post office, and then at City Hall, or was it?
Yeah, so we did the police station, City Hall, and Big River Golf Course, and then we did Harvest Foods in the post office.
We covered our bases, but I think, I get your point, Bruce, I think a public board would be helpful, but. Yeah, maybe on the reader board, does that count?
Yeah, I don't believe it does. I believe it needs to be in writing, posted in a standard note location. I don't think the reader board counts.
Resolution, authorizing the city manager to execute an intergovernmental agreement with the city of Hermiston for IT services. Any questions from council on this?
No, this is what we talked about before.
Yep, just seems like a large number, but the same. This time looking for motion.
Make a motion to approve resolution number 37-2025.
Thank you for your motion. Can we get a second motion, please? 8 seconds. For the roll call.
Counselor Funderburk,
Aye.
Counselor Dufflaw, Counselor Katie McMillan, Counselor McLean. And then if you can speak into the mic a little better, we have people saying that we can't be heard clearly.
Move on now to 9.4, resolution 38/2025, resolution modifying the compensation plan for fiscal year 2025-26 and repealing resolution number 30/2025. Motion to, I'm sorry, feeling number 30/2025. Okay, I messed that up. That's all right. Move on.
That's okay, Mayor. Small change to the salary classifications that you just recently adopted. This is to add a position, a golf pro position in the pay scale. What we're looking to do in the budget or in the operations moving forward is we have positions that are both in the pro shop and a position that works in maintenance of the course. We've had a lot of feedback from members and others that perhaps providing more camps, trainings, private lessons, that sort of thing are desired. And so this golf pro would be a bit of a hybrid position of both in the pro shop and also acting a bit of a consultant for the course superintendent and the maintenance staff out there as well. They would do the same stuff that they're doing there in the pro shop now, but add those additional requirements that would be for a golf pro. So they have to have appropriate certifications from PGA and others as associated in that job description, so that they would be able to offer those private lessons.
Just before we make your budget, I mean, how much of a budget?
So, yeah. We actually had an employee resign from one of our pro shop positions, so this isn't to add an additional FTE. This is actually just to replace that already budgeted position with this position. depending on when we hire, the likelihood of us getting a golf pro on by July 1st is probably pretty low. And the wage scale doesn't take effect until July 1st. We're likely looking at about a budget wash due to the delay in being able to hire that position.
Okay, budget block. All right, council. This time looking for a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I would make a motion to approve resolution number 38-2025.
Thank you for your motion. Can we get a second to that motion, please?
I'll second that.
Take a roll.
Counselor Funderburk.
Aye.
Counselor Dufflaw.
Aye.
Counselor Katie McMillan. Counselor McLean.
Now to the second public comment or fourth public comment section. Nothing? No one? All right, moving on now to discussion items, which we have none. Now on the mayor's message. I just want to say thank you everyone for being here tonight. I want to thank you the gentleman from the Hermiston Mayor for the Hermiston City Council program this evening. We appreciate it. Hopefully you got to see us in full display and all of our glory. I will say thank you very much for staff and Ms. McGee for joining us this evening and working diligently to ensure the process runs as smoothly as humanly possible. Thank you again to our council members for being in attendance and congratulations to Ashley Wheeler for her move and looking forward to her success. But this time we're gonna have, let's have Mr. McLean start us off.
Yeah, we'll keep it short so we can move on. It's sad to lose Ashley. It's great that she's got a new opportunity. Really glad for her opportunity set to lose her as a member of this body. We've lost the fire chief. I've got somebody that can probably help me out on this, but we're coming quickly to the end of burn season. So be careful with fire, and if you're planning on doing anything, I think we've got 11 days left, and then we're done. It's usually June 1st. But in any case, things are drying out. Be careful. We've all seen what fire is.
Thanks, Mr. McLean. Councilmember Katie.
I'm gonna keep it short and sweet too. We're all kind of getting a little bit rummy up here. It's been a long day. But thank you everybody for coming and voicing your opinions. We appreciate you guys coming out and speaking with us today. And it's not, we don't take anything lightly up here, and it is hard. So we appreciate you coming and being out here and being cordial and stuff. So everybody have a good night.
Councilmember.
Yes, I agree. Even though we're having disagreements, I love to hear our community coming in and talk to us. This is fantastic. This is what it should be all the time. And there should be, it's not personal. It's not like there's a lot of feelings and emotions that get involved, but the reality is it's all perspective. So we're perfectly fine to have different perspectives as long as we just realize that we have to listen. We have to be understanding.
Thank you. Councilmember Funderburk.
Thank you everyone for coming and thankful to have the Hermiston IT gentleman with us. Also. And as our fire chief. Yeah, and for a marathon, sorry for this. So that's it.
Thanks, Green. All right, at this time. This time, the council needs a motion to go into executive session.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion we adjourn our regular session and reconvene in executive session.
Thank you. We can second the motion, please. Roll call.
Counselor Funderburk. Counselor Dufflaw.
Aye.
Counselor Katie McMillan. Counselor McLean.
City Council now meeting in executive session, pursuant to RS 1926602D to conduct